I chased the school belle for 5 whole years. Elite soldier. Who would have thought I'm actually just cannon fodder? As a male supporting character, I hadn't even touched her hand in 5 years, only to be instantly replaced by the newly arrived male lead. As the loser here, I just have to swallow my pride. If I keep clinging onto the school belle and refuse to let go, my end will be just as miserable as any cliche villain. I pulled out my phone, ready to break things off. But then I thought, who am I kidding? It's not my place to dump her first. If I actually say the words, I'll trigger the plot and end up facing the consequences. It's better to wait for Gu Qinghan to dump me instead. Anyway, it won't be more than a few days. After all, the male lead is making his grand entrance today. The sky was gloomy and dim, with the streetlights stretching out 3 long shadows. King Han want to play some pool tomorrow. Just as they stepped out of the lounge doors, Xia Moning turned around to ask. Before the words even completely left her mouth, Lin Xiao quickly cut in, tomorrow is Saturday. Qing Han has to spend time with her boyfriend. Oh, right. Whenever there's a holiday, he always asks Qing Han out, wishing he could cling to her all day. Isn't he afraid of being annoying? Xia Moning shook her head repeatedly, her eyes drifting toward Gu Qinghan's direction. King Han, did he hit you up again? It's either watching a movie or playing video games. Gu Qinghan took a step with her long legs, her posture showing a hint of aloofness. She gave Xia Moning a casual glance and said indifferently, no, he didn't. Is he trying some new tactics now? Where did you guys change the location to? Xia Moning turned around to ask Lin Xiao. Xiao, can you guess? Lin Xiao didn't pay any attention to her at all. Seeing Gu Qinghan's bad mood, are you free on Saturday? Gu Qinghan let out a low grunt from her throat. Xia Moning finally quieted down, still muttering under her breath. He actually didn't ask you out. Lin Xiao and Xia Moning exchanged looks. Lin Xiao spoke up first. He probably has some business to attend to. We can just go to the newly opened lounge tomorrow, and there's a dessert shop right across the street. Gu Qinghan remained silent the whole time, taking it as a silent agreement. The group walked out of the alley and went their separate ways. Turning home and pushing open the villa door, Gu Qinghan didn't even need to look. Aside from the cleaning lady who comes regularly, the house was completely empty. Without a word, she went back to her bedroom. Leaning against the edge of the bed, her elbows resting on her knees, staring intently at the screen. If it were any other time, Mu Chen's long paragraphs would have bombarded her already. But today the chat box was completely clean. No sharing of what he ate for dinner, and no greeting sent right on time. Gu Qinghan was clearly stunned, casually locking the screen. A cold smile played at the corner of her mouth, throwing the phone aside and grabbing her pajamas to take a shower. Just as her foot stepped into the bathroom, she backed out, taking her phone with her. Halfway through the shower, the screen lit up. The caller ID showed Xia Moning. She dried her hands and slid to answer, her muffled voice echoing in the bathroom. Hello? Qinghan. Xia Moning's voice sounded panicked. I messed up. I hit someone with my car. Her driving skills had always been good. Getting into an accident was an absolute first. Gu Qinghan immediately gave instructions. Call an ambulance first. Then call the police immediately. Send me the location. She hung up before getting a reply, quickly rinsing off the soap, changing her clothes, and rushing out the door. Mu Yang and I had just walked out of the movie theater. The tickets were booked long ago. Originally, I wanted to invite Gu Qinghan to watch it, but after realizing I'm just a supporting character, I simply kept my mouth shut and didn't bring it up. Mu Chen, why are you so listless today? Mu Yang nudged my arm. What's going on? Did you have a fight with Gu Qinghan? I couldn't help but let out a cold chuckle, turning my head to look at Mu Yang. Why would she even bother fighting with me? At most, it's just me putting on a one-man show. In a couple of days, you'll be simping and crawling back to apologize. No way, Mu Chen. You think way too highly of yourself. A couple of days? At most, you won't even last 2 hours before you running back to comfort her. Thanks for having so much faith in me. Today's movie was originally meant for her, right? I forced a bitter smile and nodded. Girls are all the same. The more you throw yourself at them, the less they care. Just ignore her for a few days and she'll be fine. I looked up at the streetlights and sighed. But that's the male lead's exclusive script. If it were Chu Lingxiao, Gu Qinghan would be anxious right away. Come on, cut it out. With your looks and stats, you've got the male lead script written all over you. Alright? Mu Yang was still trying to comfort me. I locked my arm around his neck. Being a male lead takes more than just a face. You also need that stubborn drive. Look at me. I live by the lazy salted fish rule of giving up early. How do I look like a main character? You clearly have a lot of perseverance. You've been chasing Gu Qinghan for a whole year. Look at you learning the guitar playing basketball. Combined, you didn't even stick with them for a few months. Stop rubbing salt in the wound already. You make me sound like a useless loser who can't do anything right. I really lack commitment in everything I do. I've tried learning everything, but mastered nothing. Aside from breathing and eating, my unrequited love for Gu Qinghan is the only thing I've stuck with. Mu Chen, plenty of people in this world feel useless, but I think you're living a pretty good life. You're handsome, smart, and you managed to bag the untouchable goddess. Plus your family adores you. I slowly closed my eyes. I've already broken up with Gu Qinghan. We froze in our tracks. Mu Yang's jaw literally dropped. Did you fall for someone else? Before I could even explain, he suddenly yanked me over to the side. Is that a car crash over there? Why are there so many people crowded around? I looked over in that direction, my gaze piercing through the crowd. A flashy motorcycle was flipped over on the ground. Chu Lingxiao has made his grand entrance. Chu Lingxiao is the son of Fang Muning's ex-husband. To vent his anger for his mom, he deliberately crashed into Xia Moning's car. Through this accident, he and Gu Qinghan will get connected. He'll start popping up everywhere. Within 30 days, Gu Qinghan will find me an eyesore and dump me directly. Muchen, did you just say you wanted to break up? Mu Yang finally processed what I said. My mind was entirely focused on the upcoming plot. Outsiders thought I had been blindly chasing her for a year, but nobody knew. This unrequited love had been hidden for 3 years prior. These 4 years completely drained my youth. It's not that I want to dump her, she is simply destined to abandon me. Just as I looked up, I saw Gu Qinghan dressed in all black, pushing open the car door and stepping out. As if drawn by an invisible thread, she slightly raised her eyes and looked precisely across the street where the dim streetlight shone down. I just stood there completely still. Gu Qinghan's brow furrowed slightly. She glanced at Mu Yang, finding him familiar, yet she couldn't place his name at all. She just assumed he was one of my bros. Her gaze fell upon the road. My shadow was stretched out long. Qinghan Xia Moning called out anxiously, rushing over to grab Gu Qinghan and pulling her along. Mu Yang nudged me with his elbow. What kind of game are you two playing? I leaned forward to watch from afar. The crowd was bustling, but Gu Qinghan stood out sharply. I told you already. She and I are over. I'm just trying to avoid a running into her to prevent any awkwardness. I grabbed Mu Yang to leave. Let's get out of here. Mu Yang grabbed me back. Yo, your pocket is vibrating. I looked down, pulled out my phone, and completely panicked. Gu Qinghan actually sent me a text. Oh my god. Didn't you say you broke up? How come her contact name is still Qinghan baby? I pushed Mu Yang away. I just haven't gotten around to changing it yet. Back then, I grabbed her phone and forced the contact name change. Thinking about it now, I was really shameless. Unlocking the screen. 2 words popped up in the chat box. Wait for me. You talk about breaking up, but you're still making people wait. I rolled my eyes hard. Even though I didn't say it explicitly, the message was clear. I quickly tapped out a line of text and sent it, exiting the interface immediately. I deleted the 4 words, Qinghan baby, and changed it back to her full name, Gu Qinghan. I casually unpinned her chat and dropped it into the regular classmate list. Are you for real? Mu Yang patted my back. You're really... He swallowed the rest of his words, only giving me a firm pat. Look on the bright side. There are plenty of good girls out there. The next one will definitely be better. In the hospital corridor, smelling of disinfectant, Gu Qinghan and Xia Moning stood side by side. Xia Moning's parents were away all year round, and fearing the old lady at home would get a fright, she didn't dare make a fuss about the accident. Fortunately, Chu Lingxiao only had scratches, and the doctor said staying for observation a while was enough, though. Chu Lingxiao quietly sized up Gu Qinghan. This woman had a cold, commanding aura around her. You're a student too, right? Xia Moning's face was written all over with guilt. I'm so sorry. I'll cover all the medical expenses. Do you have any other requests? Chu Lingxiao withdrew his gaze. How long do I have to stay in the hospital? Xia Moning nodded like a woodpecker. Right, but I will absolutely take full responsibility. Chu Lingxiao's peripheral vision scanned Gu Qinghan again. Ever since she walked in, she'd been staring at her screen, not knowing whose text she was waiting for. Xia Moning pulled out her phone and suggested, how about calling your parents over? I'm still a student. I don't have that much money. No need, you can leave. Chu Lingxiao buried his head very low. Xia Moning looked at the boy on the hospital bed, the pale light shining on his face, revealing a hint of vulnerability. The guilt in her heart grew even heavier. Let me help you contact your family. My dad passed away long ago. Chu Lingxiao's tone was as cold as ice. Xia Moning's mouth hung half open. She also understood the feeling of not having parents' love, silently putting her phone away at a loss. Only then did Gu Qinghan look up for the first time. Before she could even see Chu Lingxiao's face clearly, the screen in her hand lit up. She quickly lowered her head to check it. It's too late. I'm heading out first. Gu Qinghan opened the input box, her finger hovering over the keyboard, but she couldn't type a single word. Then, is there no one else in your family? Xia Moning was worried sick. My grandfather Chu Lingxiao replied casually. It's not good to disturb an elder this late, right? Xia Moning scratched her hair in frustration. She definitely shouldn't have gone out today. Hoping to count on him won't work either. He's actually lying in a ward upstairs. Xia Moning was completely dumbfounded. Gu Qinghan's gaze swept over again. Chu Lingxiao looked straight at her. I don't need money. Just come and take care of me every day. Xia Moning waved her hands repeatedly. I'm the one who hit you. This has nothing to do with Qinghan. She didn't want to dump this blame on Gu Qinghan. Just lie down for now. I'll come report here every day this month. After saying that, she dragged Gu Qinghan out. Qinghan, I'm so sorry about today. My grandma is all alone at home. She absolutely can't find out. When she called to check on me, I used you as a shield. Xia Moning had a bitter look on her face. No, a caregiver is too expensive. Fixing the car just drained my allowance. Yu Qinghan gave a slight nod. I'll advance the money. You do my homework for a month. Jia Moning's eyes widened in shock. How can that be? Even if you hand in a blank sheet, no one cares. You shouldn't be wrong for my sake. Then you can just waste your time here alone. Gu Qinghan's tone was completely flat. Jia Moning smiled pleadingly. Qinghan, if I don't go home tonight, Grandma will go crazy with worry. Anyway, you don't really like going home. Could you please cover the night shift for me? I promise I won't slack off during the day. If you take a whole month off, our counselor will definitely blow a fuse. Gu Qinghan gave her a cold swipe of a glance. Jia Moning stomped her feet in sheer anxiety. The corner of Gu Qinghan's mouth twitched. Fine, leave it to me. It just so happens I don't want to go to school and deal with people's attitudes anyway. While Jia Moning was still feeling conflicted, Gu Qinghan pushed her away. Hurry up and beat it. Grandma is going to worry in a bit. No one cares whether I show up at school or not. Jia Moning thought about it and realized it was true. The counselor knew Gu Qinghan's family situation was special. Qinghan, you are my real sister. Just call me whenever you need anything from now on. Gu Qinghan rolled her eyes. Just stop causing trouble for me and we're good. Chu Lingxiao waited for a long time, and the ward door finally opened. The one who walked in was Gu Qinghan. A faint smile played on his lips. The plan had finally succeeded. Have you guys reached an agreement? Chu Lingxiao opened his mouth and asked. Gu Qinghan sat on the stool and gave a slight nod, then lowered her head to keep looking at her phone. Chu Lingxiao glanced at her. Just like the first time he met her, she was completely cold and indifferent to everything. Didn't Fang Muning want to win her over? If he gets together with Gu Qinghan, can Fang Muning still enter the Gu family? Would her father ever tolerate that? Is this how you take care of people? Chu Lingxiao said softly, his gaze drifting toward the window. Gu Qinghan didn't even look up. I hired a caregiver, auntie. She will be here in a bit. She will take care of you. If I didn't hear wrong, your friend can't afford that, right? Gu Qinghan's voice was deep. All you asked for was to be taken care of. Anything else has nothing to do with you. Chu Lingxiao waved his hand. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. The walls in this ward are just really thin. I'm hungry. I want to eat something. A faint smile surfaced in Chu Lingxiao's eyes. Can the auntie get here in 10 minutes? Gu Qinghan stood right up. What do you want to eat? Chu Lingxiao shook his phone. Add me, I'll text it to you. I have too many specific requests I'm afraid you won't remember. Gu Qinghan suddenly spoke up and asked, what were you doing out there in the middle of the night? Chu Lingxiao lowered his eyes, knowing that she was starting to get suspicious. I have a part-time job at the arcade. Gu Qinghan nodded. After adding each other, Chu Lingxiao spoke up, I've already sent it to you. By the time he raised his head again, Gu Qinghan had already walked out the door. Chu Lingxiao's gaze turned dark and gloomy. This person is truly heartless. Early Saturday morning, Jia Moning showed up carrying some fruit. Gu Qinghan finished settling things with the caregiver, and seeing Jia Moning walk over, she acted like they were complete strangers. Right now, there were only the two of them in the ward. Jia Moning walked over quickly and handed the breakfast to Gu Qinghan. Qinghan, thank you for your hard work. You should go back and get some proper rest. Since it's the weekend, I'll take care of him during the day. Seeing that Gu Qinghan wasn't moving, is something wrong? Gu Qinghan turned off her phone, no longer staring at the chat box. It's nothing. Gu Qinghan left with the breakfast, her mind surprisingly clear. She barely slept last night, but it wasn't because of Chu Lingxiao's situation. The caregiver had arrived within 2 hours, and she had booked a room outside. Coming back at 5 a.m., when she was lying on the large hotel bed just going through the motions, she tossed and turned, unable to sleep, her eyes unconsciously drifting back to her phone. What on earth is wrong with me? Gu Qinghan had never made any demands before. Last night was the first time she ever asked me to wait for her. But having always catered to her this time, I rejected her directly. Plus, I didn't send a goodnight text last night. Gu Qinghan was totally certain that ever since the day I added her, I would send a goodnight text every single night. After the two of us officially got together, the goodnight text would even be followed by heart emojis. But just last night was the first time I didn't send one. Lin Xiaoyao called up. Where are you right now? I'll log into a PC for you first. Thinking of the new lounge mentioned last night, Gu Qinghan gave a low hum in response, and then hung up the phone. Inside a private room at the dessert shop, Mu Yang and the others sat around a table. Tablets and books were laid out on the table. Little Chen, you're so fake for this. How long has it been since you invited us out? My older sister, Mu Yulu, brought over the refreshments. These are the shop's newest items. Everyone help me taste test them. Mu Yang squinted his eyes and grinned. Looks delicious. Let me take a picture first to commemorate this. Sister patted my head. You Mr. Busy finally decided to come to my little shop. My relationship with Gu Qinghan had always been kept a secret from my family. In the past, whenever I didn't come to my sister's shop, I would just make up a random excuse, saying I was going somewhere else to study. Sister thought it was because her baking skills weren't good enough and felt she couldn't keep me at the shop. So she went crazy developing new products, just hoping I would visit more often. I took a sip of my honey pomelo slushie and jokingly teased her with a smile. I was blinded before. But now I realize sister's treats are still the best. Most importantly, the food is free here. As the owner of this shop, sister had hired 3 employees. Usually she didn't need to lift a finger herself. But whenever I came to the shop, she would absolutely cook in person. Sigh. Free stuff from your own family can never beat what's outside after all. Sister intentionally sighed with emotion, then turned around to seriously instruct me. I'm going to the back to sketch designs. Order whatever you guys want to eat. It's all on my tab. I obediently nodded and agreed. Got it, sister. Just as sister turned and walked away, Muyang gave me a hard nudge. Little Chen, look outside. Isn't that Gu Qinghan? The moment Gu Qinghan appeared outside the window, the people who originally had their heads down eating pastries all looked up one after another to peer outside. Everyone had been in the same high school class as me, and Gu Qinghan had always been a celebrity figure. Not only did everyone know her, they also knew we were dating. Little Chen, what's up with you today? How come you're not with her? Xiao Shuyue asked from the side. Shen Qingchuan nudged Xiao Shuyue, deliberately lowering his voice to say, even when you're in a relationship, you can't forget your bros. Little Chen finally set up a hangout. Don't be a party pooper. Shen Qingchuan had short, messy hair and looked very cheerful and bright. We lived in the same neighborhood, in the same building, and were in the same class, so we naturally became best friends. Hao Shuyue was the kid next door. During winter and summer breaks when I went over to play, she kept a strict eye on my studying. Lin Zixian had a great relationship with her. Relying on our own merits, the few of us entered the elite class of #1 high school together and later got admitted to Xin University. Not long after the semester started, the 5 of us became a tight-knit group. Every single weekend in the past, we would all gather together. But ever since I got together with her, I clung to her every weekend, rarely hanging out with everyone anymore. Gu Qinghan and I broke up. From now on, during our weekend breaks, let's gather up just like old times. Lin Zixian's mouth fell open in surprise. You guys actually broke up. You haven't even been together that long, right? Hao Shuyue pushed up her glasses and said in a calm tone, breaking up is actually good. I told you before, her personality is way too cold. She is completely indifferent to everyone. She was never a good match for you to begin with. I twirled the pen in my hand and argued back. Even though we broke up, it wasn't because of those things. Her personality isn't actually that bad. There's no major issue with it. Liking the cold aloof vibe is just a personal preference. Just like how Qingchuan loves eating spicy strips. Miu Yang loves drinking cola, Zixian likes potato chips. And you love plain water, you can't judge a person based on that. Shen Qingchuan, who was currently eating spicy strips, lowered his head and muttered softly, no need to call me out like that. Mu Yang squeezed his cola can. Carbonated drinks really do taste amazing. Lin Zixian stopped chewing his potato chips and spoke up on behalf of Xiao Shuyue to explain Shuyue doesn't just prefer plain water because of a quirk. She just thinks it's healthier. With the way you're protecting her, does this look like a couple that's about to break up? Kao Shuyue hit the nail right on the head, pointing out that I was still defending her. She and I really broke up. It has nothing to do with her character. I just don't like her anymore. Hearing this, everyone lowered their heads, falling silent and saying nothing more, quietly working on their homework. Xiao Shuyue suddenly stood up, turned around and said to me seriously, come out with me for a second. Mu Yang and the others exchanged glances. I put down the pen in my hand, held the almost melted slushie, and followed right behind Xiao Shuyue. The lighting in the lounge was a bit dim. Gu Qinghan played a match, but even though she won, she still felt frustrated, her gaze constantly drifting back to her phone. Qinghan, do you want to eat something? How about I go next door and grab a bite? Lin Xiao could tell she was absent-minded. Gu Qinghan grabbed her phone and stood up. You keep playing here. I'm going out to buy some things. After saying that, she walked out of the lounge. The moment she stepped outside, the blinding sunlight made it hard to keep her eyes open. She spotted a dessert shop nearby, named Zindian. She felt like the name sounded very familiar, perhaps just because it contained the word new. She quickly walked into the shop. Do you guys deliver? Yes, but there's a delivery fee. Gu Qinghan nodded, directly giving them an address. I want a mango millet crepe and a blueberry lava Basque cheesecake. Please deliver them to this address. Then she bought some more food, picked up the items and left Zindian. As soon as she walked out, she saw a familiar figure, fresh and neat short hair, a light yellow casual shirt, and wearing a white baseball cap. Standing in front of me was a girl wearing a clean white shirt, tall with her eyebrows tightly furrowed. The two of us were talking in low voices. I obediently lowered my head to sip my drink. Little Chen, are you even listening? Kao Shuyue had known me since childhood, and I had always listened to her. In order to get into Xin University, I used to pester her every day for tutoring. I patted her shoulder. Of course I'm listening. Back when I said I wanted to chase Gu Qinghan, you were the very first person I told. You said she had a bit of a cold temper, so I went to seriously find out more. Everything you see is just a misunderstanding. The reason she's cold to people is because, Little Chen, I don't care about the reason. An aloof personality is just fundamentally wrong. If she bullies you, what are you going to do then? Hearing this, I couldn't help but chuckle. Don't worry, classmate Shuyue. She won't bully me. Anyway, now that you've broken up, don't have any contact with her from now on. Kao Shuyue patted my head. Your sister told me to keep a close eye on you. You're not allowed to date before you're 30. I I hadn't told my sister about Gu Han. If she found out, I probably wouldn't get to eat free cake anymore. I handed her the unopened drink, patting her shoulder. Then you better eat and drink as much as you can to enjoy this lifetime's quota in advance. Gu Han watched as I handed over the drink. Kao Shuyue naturally took it, and the two of them chatted and laughed. Gu Han suddenly looked away, the bright smiles on our faces seeming exceptionally piercing at this moment. Gu Han recalled Xia Moning's words. I know Mu Chen, I met him at an interest class before. He stopped going after just a few days. He's completely all talk and no commitment. 611. Lin Xiao also chimed in at the time. Lin Xiao also agreed back then you don't have to worry. He's pestering you every day right now, but maybe he'll give up in a while. After that, every time they saw me looking for her, they would mockingly tease, your 3-minute passion is here again. Gu Han never would have thought that I, with my 3-minute passion, would actually chase her for a whole year. Inside the bright hospital ward, Jia Moning left after finishing the handoff. Gu Han came forward to take over the care. Chu Lingxiao keenly noticed that, compared to her coldness yesterday, her mood today was extremely terrible. Classmate Gu, did you break up? Chu Lingxiao asked half-jokingly. Gu Han's fingers froze instantly, and she subconsciously asked back, how on earth did you know? You're high profile at Sin University, so of course I've heard of you. Chu Lingxiao, dressed in hospital scrubs, had eyes that flickered with light, looking fresh and attractive. However, Gu Han's mood at this moment was frustrated to the extreme. Rarely did anyone cut her off on regular days, let alone the words break up, which deeply stung her heart. We didn't break up. Gu Han rarely said an extra word. Chu Lingxiao originally thought it would be different. He knew Gu Han's relationships lasted a few days at shortest, and a few months at longest, mostly ending because the guy was too clingy. He had seen the scenes of me pestering her, and concluded that the two of us couldn't last long, lasting 2 months at most. In Chu Lingxiao's eyes, as far as Gu Han was concerned, I wasn't anything special. Maybe her expression right now was just because she was annoyed by my clinginess. Gu Han came here for the handoff, and once the caregiver auntie arrived, she prepared to get up and leave. Chu Lingxiao lay on the hospital bed, watching her curl up on the sofa playing on her phone. Gu Han played a few matches, but her mind had already drifted far away. Matches that used to be easy wins ended up as a losing streak of several games today. Gu Han irritably exited the game, her gaze falling on the social media app. Chu Lingxiao didn't even try to hide that he was staring at her, only seeing her staring tightly at her phone, her slender fingers hovering over the screen, not making a single move for a long time. Do you find it very boring right now? A voice suddenly broke the silence in the ward. Gu Han's fingertips trembled violently, accidentally tapping open the app. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and she raised her eyes to glance at him. It was unclear whether she was annoyed by the interruption or unwilling to face the empty chat box. I know how to play the game you play. Should we team up? Chu Lingxiao shook his phone, a gentle smile blooming on his face. In Gu Han's mind, the image flashed of me laughing loudly with someone else outside the shop, her chest feeling as if pressed down by a heavy object, her mood becoming increasingly heavy. Go use matchmaking yourself, she responded in a cold voice. Chu Lingxiao was slightly stunned, not knowing where he had offended her, but he didn't show any awkwardness, instead generously teasing classmate Gu. I'm really curious, how does someone with a personality like yours manage to find a boyfriend? Before Gu Han could even respond, the auntie pushed the door open and walked in. Chu Lingxiao looked at Gu Han, who looked like she didn't want to stay for even another second. He picked up his phone and strided away. Gu Han had a very tall figure. Standing next to her, the auntie barely reached her shoulder. Chu Lingxiao thought to himself, Gu Han is still very distant with him, but he still has a month. Once she breaks up with me, his chance will naturally come. Gu Han went back to the hotel across the street, standing alone by the bright window. She actively opened her chat with me, her fingers quickly tapping on the screen. First she typed, "Are you mad?" Then she quickly deleted it, unable to figure out where she crossed me. Next she typed, "Why? Why didn't you say goodnight to me?" After a moment of thought, she deleted it again, worried she would look like she cared too much. Finally she typed, "What are you doing?" Before she could even hit delete, she directly locked the screen, threw the phone onto the big bed, and walked into the bathroom with her pajamas. After I finished playing and got tired, I washed up and lay in bed wanting to sleep early. Seeing that my battery was still almost full, my sleepiness instantly vanished without a trace. Anyway, it's the holidays right now, and there are no classes scheduled for tomorrow. It won't hurt to play a bit longer. I casually unplugged the charging cable and opened the chat app. After casually browsing through it for a bit, aside from people spamming memes in the group chat, the pinned Gu Han showed absolutely no activity. I accidentally clicked into the chat box and mistakenly sent a sleeping moon emoji. By the time I suddenly snapped out of it, the message could no longer be unsent. I frustratedly slammed my head against the pillow, searching online if there was a way to force an unsend. The result was naturally nothing at all. Gu Han came out of the bathroom, a white towel draped over her neck, her skin showing a faint rosy glow. She habitually picked up her phone, giving it an extremely casual glance, and instantly froze right on the spot. A water droplet fell onto her eyelashes. Only then did she suddenly snap out of it, subconsciously pursing her lips, the corners of her eyes curving up slightly. Holding her phone tightly with both hands, she lowered her head and pondered seriously for a long time, yet hesitated to reply to the message. The neighborhood I lived in had excellent greenery, with lush plants swaying outside the window. At night, the sounds of insects rose and fell. Listening to the chirping outside, my mood gradually calmed down. I pulled away the blanket covering my head, reaching up to touch my forehead, which was covered in fine sweat. I picked up the phone beside me to lower the AC temperature. Right at that moment, the phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Gu Qinghan. I subconsciously swallowed my saliva, feeling secretly amazed in my heart. She had always ignored me, yet today she actually replied out of nowhere. Suppressing the surge of emotion inside, I opened our chat box. There it was written, "I will." I shook my head helplessly, thinking that even if Gu Qinghan replied, it was just a perfunctory answer. To avoid any future awkwardness, I decisively deleted her from my friends list. Anyway, since she never texts first, she'll probably never find out. After I finished deleting her, I plugged the charging cable into my phone and went straight to dreamland. On the other side of the city, Gu Qinghan stood alone on the balcony, feeling the cool night breeze, her heart full of anticipation for my reply. Suddenly, a notification rang on her phone. It was Zia moaning, looking for her in the group. "Are you free to hang out tomorrow?" Gu Qinghan stared at this message, flashes of the past constantly popping up in her mind, where I would cling to her every weekend. I didn't ask her out on Saturday, maybe because I had plans with friends. Then, what about Sunday? Gu Qinghan didn't reply to him for the time being. Watching the time on her phone, slowly ticking away toward the early hours of the morning, Gu Qinghan took a deep breath of cold air, tightly gripped her phone, and stiffly walked back to her room. When Sunday finally arrived, I was out eating, drinking, and having fun with my friends, even going to watch a movie together at night, completely putting Gu Qinghan out of my mind. I returned to my room at 10 o'clock sharp. On my phone, Shen Qingchuan had sent over a promotional video of the movie's female lead, along with a string of compliments. His tone was like, "She's way too cool. The screen presence is literally off the charts." I casually clicked in to watch it for a bit, not expecting the female lead to actually be stunning, a fierce and sharp face, wearing a slick sports vest, faintly revealing well-defined abs. She was a solid 175 centimeters tall, and highly educated too. I finished watching the video without even realizing it, and it automatically autoplayed the next one. The more I watched, the more captivated I became, and I couldn't help but marvel out loud. How can someone be this beautiful? Her figure is insane too. Plus, she has such a gentle and kind personality, and she's actually a massive academic genius. She looks cold, but is secretly cute. She actually likes biting straws too. After finishing the video my friend sent, I went online to look up more edits. Before I knew it, I had been watching until midnight, and once I realized it, I felt instant regret, thinking I shouldn't have clicked on that recommendation video. I have an 8 a.m. class tomorrow morning. When Monday morning arrived, my first class was a major specific course. Gu Qinghan and I were not only in the same major, we were also in the exact same class. If this were the past, I would always be waiting for her at the door. Wherever Gu Qinghan went to sit, I would follow right behind her. But today was different. I naturally sat down with my friends, with Chao Shuyue and Zixian right next to me. I looked to my left and then to my right and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. We're actually pretty lucky. The 5 of us chose the same major. Thinking about it closely, I'm actually quite happy. Muyang opened his textbook while teasing with a laugh. "The way you say it makes it sound like the 4 of us are secretly in love with you." "Stop it already. Don't flatter yourself. It's nothing more than a coincidence." Shen Qingchuan raised his hand to speak up. "I purely just love physics." I couldn't help but pout and turned my head to look at Chao Shuyue. Cao Shuyue looked up and said calmly, "You already know. I've been best at physics since I was a kid." I then looked at Lin Zixian next to me. He was chewing on a piece of bread, mumbling indistinctly, "My dad forced me to choose it. It actually has nothing to do with me." "Oh, come on, little Chen. I'm the only one who chose it for you." Muyang slapped my arm, blinking repeatedly as he said, "Oh, stop it already. You chose it for your goddess." I shot back with a laugh, showing no mercy. Muyang had been simping for idols since middle school, and he joined the physics department just to be at the same school as her. But unfortunately for him, just as he got admitted to this university, his goddess got cancelled and left the entertainment industry. I did not. That toxic girl isn't my goddess anymore. My current goddess is Yuxi. Didn't I drop it in the group chat yesterday? Muyang argued back loudly. The moment he said this, the other 4 people all turned their heads to look at him. Lin Zixian pointed at the 3 of them and asked, "You guys started a group chat behind our backs. Whose trash are you talking about?" Xiao Shuyue held his hand down. "Don't be so childish. Why would we talk trash?" I smiled and reassured the 2 of them. "We definitely didn't talk trash about you guys." Hao Shuyue didn't really care, turning her head to look at me and saying, "All right, we knew it all along. Zixian is just looking for trouble over nothing." I shrugged my shoulders indifferently. I laughed and punched his shoulder with my fist. Thanks for letting me off the hook, big boss. We were sitting near the front of the classroom, completely unaware that several pairs of eyes were staring from the back row. Ching-han looked up front. He actually didn't bring you breakfast today. Xia Moning looked at the front seats, not yet noticing the look on Gu Ching-han's face. His gaze grew increasingly dark. He didn't even wait for you at the door. He just straight up went and sat with someone else. Xia Moning pointed her finger at Chao Shuyue. There's a girl to his right too. Wait, no, there are two girls. Lin Xiao let out an awkward cough, glancing at her less than pleased expression, and quickly spoke up to explain for me. Aren't there guys on the left too? They're close friends who usually hang out, so it's totally normal to sit together. But look at him. Look at how hard he's laughing. I've never seen him like this with Ching-han. His eyes are squinting like crazy from laughing. All his teeth are showing. And he's even touching that girl's shoulder, Moning said, refusing to drop it. Lin Xiao helplessly lowered her head, secretly looking at her unreasonable behavior. Where did he touch her shoulder? That was clearly a playful punch on the shoulder. Besides, how can that be the same? Boyfriends and friends are treated differently. You have to act reserved in front of your girlfriend. Jia Moning patted her shoulder. Ching-han, why don't you send a message? Just text and ask him. In the past, whether there was an early class or not, he would bring you breakfast every single day. As long as it was a lecture we took together, he would absolutely sit with you. Gu Qinghan slowly raised her eyes, her cold gaze locking onto Xia Moning. Can you please shut your mouth? Xia Moning sneaked a look at her and could only silently shut her mouth. Gu Qinghan looked down at her phone, opening her chat box with me. The conversation stopped at last night's content. I haven't sent a morning text for 3 days now. But if I'm really mad, then what was up with that goodnight emoji? From last night, Gu Qinghan tightly gripped her pen, lightly tapping it against the desk, making a crisp sound. Xia Moning knew she was truly angry now. Lin Xiao opened her own phone, clicked on her chat box with me, and slid it directly in front of Gu Qinghan. Why don't you use mine to ask? Previously, in order to get to know Gu Qinghan, I had added every single person around her. Gu Qinghan looked at my profile picture, not making a move for a long time. Xia Moning let out a helpless sigh. What on earth are you hesitating for? How about I ask for you? After saying that, she grabbed the phone and started typing. Why aren't you keeping Qinghan company today? After typing it out, she showed it to her. Is it okay to send it like this? Lin Xiao leaned over to take a look. I think sending it like this is fine. Seeing that she didn't object, Xia Moning took it as her silent approval. Just as she reached out to hit send, the phone was snatched away by Gu Qinghan. Xia Moning clearly saw the words typed out. How have you been lately? Before she could even open her mouth to stop her, Gu Qinghan had already sent it out. Lin Xiao was instantly dumbfounded, unable to help but complain in a low voice. Qinghan, you're setting me up, asking like this using my account. Makes it look like I care about him a lot. I was listening to the lecture attentively when my phone suddenly vibrated. I glanced at it from under the desk. It was actually from Lin Xiao. This is someone who hasn't texted me in ages. I clicked in to take a look, feeling completely confused. Is something wrong? Xiao Shuyue looked down at me. Lin Xiao sent me a message. Mu Yang leaned his head over gossipingly. Isn't she Gu Qinghan's friend? Why did she suddenly text you? Hearing Gu Qinghan's name, Xiao Shuyue pushed the textbook right in front of me. Hurry up and pay attention to the lecture. Having been kept in check by her regarding my studies for years, I was long used to her management. I casually replied, it's nothing, and straight up locked my phone. The moment the text was sent, Xia Moning was keeping a constant eye on the front. Seeing Chao Shuyue's reaction, she couldn't help but frown. What is that girl's problem? What does this have to do with her? She doesn't want Mu Chen to reply to you. Lin Xiao shook her head helplessly. How should I know? Gu Qinghan stared at those 3 words, remaining silent for quite a while, then locked the phone and handed it back to Lin Xiao. Just as the two were about to say something, Gu Qinghan tapped the desk firmly. Shut up and listen to the lecture. There was a 10-minute break midway through class. I originally wanted to crash on the desk to catch up on sleep, but Mu Yang and the guys dragged me out to the hallway. With my sleepy eyes half closed, I said, I don't need to use the bathroom. Mu Yang pushed me and Shen Qingchuan. We know you don't. I was dragged all the way to the hallway exit, right next to a breezy window. I lazily leaned against the wall, the warm sunlight basking over my body. My entire body felt nice and toasty. I've always been sensitive to the cold since childhood, and the classroom's AC was set way too low. Now that the sun was hitting me, it felt incredibly warm and comfortable. Sliding down the wall, I huddled in the corner and dozed off on the floor. A few minutes felt like a solid 2-hour nap. Qinghan, why did you come out? Jia Moning was still clutching some tissues, thinking Gu Qinghan needed to use the restroom, only to see her stand still right at the exit. I came out to get some fresh air. Gu Qinghan was holding a bottle of water, her other hand preparing to twist the cap off, her eyes drifting toward the window. Jia Moning followed her gaze. Qinghan, there's a guy over there. You shouldn't stare at him like that. There are only 3 minutes left before class. The moment those words left her mouth, Gu Qinghan was already gone. Gu Qinghan strided right up to me, casting a massive shadow over my vision. I had sensed someone coming a while ago, thinking it was Mu Yang and the guys, After shifting around a bit, I rubbed my eyes and stood up. Having binged videos until 3 a.m. last night, I was honestly so exhausted right now. I'm going to sleep in the back row during the next period. As I stood up while rubbing my eyes, the person in front of me was way too eye-catching, wearing a black short-sleeved t-shirt. Before I even dropped my hands, I knew it wasn't Muyang or Qingchuan at all. I subconsciously took a step to the side. "What are you doing here?" The moment those words left my mouth, I noticed the water bottle in her hand. If this were the past, I would have started nagging her like a mother, telling her to stop drinking ice water, because it's bad for her stomach and health. Gu Qinghan gently handed the tissue in her hand over to me. I didn't react at first, but touching my forehead, I realized I was sweating. I took the tissue and wiped the sweat away. Just as Gu Qinghan uttered a single syllable, I saw Muyang and the guys coming out, so I instantly waved and shouted, "I'm over here!" Gu Qinghan looked down, observing me. She had clearly seen me just now, seen the ice water in her hand. Yet I didn't say a single thing, not one extra word, and didn't even give her a second look. Turning her head to look toward the hallway, I had already walked into the classroom with my friends. Jia Moning hurriedly came out of the restroom, and seeing the water bottle in Gu Qinghan's hand, she couldn't help but scratch her head. "Qinghan, didn't you say you wanted fresh air?" Gu Qinghan coldly took a step back, saying nothing as she walked back to the classroom. "Little Chen, why did you ignore me? I'm honestly heartbroken." Muyang and Qingchuan pulled me over, the two of them asking in unison, "What's going on between you and Gu Qinghan?" I looked left and right. What situation could there be? I was just sweating a bit, so she gave me a tissue. The three had already returned to their seats. Kao Shuyue had also overheard these words, and she pointed at my jacket pocket. "You actually have tissues in your pocket." I froze instantly. I didn't stuff any tissues in there. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out a neatly folded tissue pack. "When was this put in?" "While you were dozing off during class." Kao Shuyue said it nonchalantly. I nodded and sat down. "Seriously, thanks a lot. If I knew, I wouldn't have taken hers. I already told you so before." Xiao Shuyue stared at me quietly. I was just dazed from sleepiness earlier. I quickly put my hands together and made a crying face at her, hurrying to express my apology. "Achoo!" Jia Moning rubbed her nose hard. "Why did it suddenly get so cold?" She glanced at the seats up front. Gu Qinghan's gaze was like glue, dead set and stuck right on me. Jia Moning leaned back in her chair, exchanging a look across the backrest. Lin Xiao twirled the pen in her hand and leaned a bit closer to Gu Qinghan. "Qinghan, don't worry. You're definitely the only one in his heart." Lin Xiao's tone was extremely earnest, drawing Gu Qinghan's gaze toward her, a look that said she wouldn't let it go unless it was explained clearly. "Look, let me break it down for you. Mu Chen usually wears bright colors, either yellow, pink, blue, or clean white. Just to clarify, I didn't do it on purpose." Lin Xiao added immediately after, "But look at what he's wearing today." There was no need for Gu Qinghan to specifically look. She had already been staring at me all day. Lin Xiao originally wanted to answer her own question, but was directly cut off by Xia Moning. Jia Moning said slowly in a low voice, "He's wearing black today. Qinghan, you're also wearing black. This is clearly a matching couple outfit. He definitely did it on purpose. He still likes you in his heart." Gu Qinghan's tightly pursed lips relaxed, and she took a serious look at my clothes. "Qinghan, weren't you just playing around? Why do you suddenly care so much?" Seeing Gu Qinghan's improving expression, Jia Moning couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. Lin Xiao replied casually, "This kid's tactics are very clever." Jia Moning hurriedly pressed for answers. "How is it clever?" "I think he's ignoring her on purpose, just to make Qinghan care about him even more." Jia Moning only had gaming on her mind, and aside from studying, it was just sleeping. She didn't have that many twists and turns. She just gave an "oh" and didn't say anything further. Gu Qinghan directly picked up her phone, opened the browser search, and typed in Bo Yuxi's name. Jia Moning was copying the blackboard notes, and seeing that she kept her head down the whole time, she curiously leaned over to take a look. Jia Moning asked when Qinghan started following idols. "Qinghan, since when did you get into standing idols? And you're even standing the female celeb Bo Yuxi." Gu Qinghan locked her phone screen, took off her pen cap, and prepared to solve problems. Her gaze landed on the textbook. "You know her." Jia Moning clicked her tongue secretly. "That's the top-tier star Bo Yuxi. The guys in our class are totally obsessed with her. She has tens of millions of fans online. You can't even see her in person walking down the street. It's completely packed and surrounded by fans with screaming all around." Gu Qinghan's pen tip paused for a moment, but she didn't say anything out loud. She just gave an indifferent hum and continued burying her head in solving problems. "Wait a minute, how did you already write up to this page? It's one thing that you're smarter than me, but you're actually forcing me to grind hard too. Can you leave a way out for us bad students?" Jia Moning glanced at her own progress, which was barely half of Gu Qinghan's. "Qinghan, after class, I'm going to the hospital to see Chuling Xiao. Make sure you pay attention and lend me your notes to copy later. You can just take them. I'm skipping the next class." Jia Moning's eyes widened. "You even finished learning the elective course in advance. This is way too terrifying." I'm applying to change my desk mate. I couldn't sleep last night, so I just did it, Gu Qinghan said, indifferently. Last night, he had sent her a message, and she thought he would reply with something more. Playing games for a few hours was just too boring, so she casually read her books instead. School was over for me after finishing this class. Just as I wanted to go buy snacks with Muyang and the guys, someone suddenly stood right in front of me, completely blocking my path. I raised my head and looked over. The other person was slightly shorter than me, with eyes that were exceptionally bright and clear. At first glance, and even at third glance, only 2 words popped up in my head: first love. This was literally the embodiment of a white moonlight. These labels seemed custom made for him. The moment I laid eyes on him, these words automatically surfaced. Muyang and Shenqing Chuan stood by the side, definitely thinking the exact same thing as me. The 3 of us tacitly plotted how we were going to praise him in our small group chat later. This white moonlight textbook tier hunk definitely deserved a whole row of exclamation marks first. Hello, classmate. I'm looking for Gu Qinghan. Do you happen to know her? The 3 of us were instantly stunned. Qiao Shuyue and Lin Zixian walked up from behind. Qiao Shuyue handed a bottle over to me. You forgot your water bottle. My mind was still spacing out, thinking about this white moonlight hunk, so I didn't react in time to take the bottle. Qiao Shuyue calmly took the strap of the bottle and gently hung it around my neck, then reached out to help adjust the brim of my cap. This was the exact scene Gu Qinghan saw when she walked out. The sunlight poured through the glass onto us. Dressed in white, Qiao Shuyue had a tall figure. Blocking the blinding light in front of my eyes, she carefully hung the water bottle on me and considerately adjusted my cap. After she finished these actions, I turned my head and smiled at her, the outline of my hair looking like it was gilded with a golden edge. Even with the sunlight block, standing there casually, I was still incredibly dazzling. The scene was as beautiful as a painting. Chu Lingxiao bypassed me and slowly walked up to Gu Qinghan, revealing a gentle smile, though his gaze held a bit of helplessness. Gu Qinghan, I have something I want to say to you. Chu Lingxiao's voice was very soft, unlike how I was whenever I sought out Gu Qinghan to talk, always looking excited and thrilled. Shenqing Chuan tugged at the corner of my shirt. I turned my head and stopped looking in their direction, leaving together with Qiao Shuyue and Muyang. Gu Qinghan watched my departing back, until I completely disappeared around the corner of the hallway. Ya Moning looked at Chu Lingxiao in front of her. Why did you run all the way here? Why aren't you resting properly in the hospital? Is your leg even okay? Chu Lingxiao shifted slightly. It's fine. It's just a minor injury, I can manage to walk. Seeing him like this, Jia Moning felt even more guilty in her heart. Do you have some urgent business at school? I'll help you over to find her. Chu Lingxiao gently shook his head. There's really no need. I just have something to look for Gu Qinghan for. Jia Moning was instantly stunned, looking at Chu Lingxiao beside her, and then looking at Gu Qinghan up ahead. Is there something that can't be said over the phone? Gu Qinghan walked out from the doorway. She leaned casually against the wall, slightly lowering her deep eyes. Downstairs was a silhouette of me just walking out. I hadn't walked more than a few steps away before Qiao Shuyue took an umbrella out of her bag and very naturally opened it up for me. Chu Lingxiao, if you have something, just tell me directly. Her mood isn't very good today. Xia Moning stopped Chu Lingxiao, who wanted to move forward. Chu Lingxiao gently nodded, taking a small step backward. I can only speak to her about this alone. Can you give me a moment of your time? Lin Xiaoyao was originally following behind, looking at her phone. Hearing Chu Lingxiao say this, even if you go straight to her, she's not going to pay any attention to you. Lin Xiaoyao took a glance. Xia Moning waved her phone in her hand. Qinghan said there's no need to wait for her. She wants us to go ahead first. Xia Moning glanced at Chu Lingxiao's injured leg. Are you sure you don't need me to take you back to the hospital? Chu Lingxiao stubbornly insisted no need, keeping his head down, unwilling to communicate further. Seeing this, Xia Moning had no other choice. Then keep yourself safe. If anything else happens to you, the blame for this fight will still fall on me. Chu Lingxiao looked away, no longer watching him. Xia Moning left together with Lin Xiaoyao. Gu Qinghan rested her hand on the windowsill, watching the figures below fade into the distance, and stopped twirling her lighter. Chu Lingxiao slowly walked up to her, seeing her staring downstairs the whole time. He spoke up tactfully. Gu Qinghan didn't turn around. At first her eyes were filled with frustration, but now a hint of impatience was added. She watched my figure turn into a tiny black dot, her voice deep and clear. If you have something, say it quickly. This place isn't really suitable for a talk, is it? Chu Lingxiao glanced at the restroom next to them. Then hurry up and get away from me. Gu Qinghan stood up straight, her gaze locking onto him without a ripple of emotion. Chu Lingxiao knew she had a bad temper. When he was around her in the past, she was merely cold and aloof. But her core upbringing wasn't actually lacking. Such heartless words like, get away from me, were something he had heard from her mouth for the first time. Do you not understand human language? Gu Qinghan put her hands away and prepared to bypass Chu Lingxiao to leave. If you don't hear me out today, you will definitely regret it in the future. Gu Qinghan's forward steps came to a halt. Who doesn't have regrets in life? Chu Lingxiao quickly took a few steps forward. Isn't it better to have one less regret? Whether it's good or bad is my business. Suit yourself. After saying this, Gu Qinghan didn't even give Chu Lingxiao a second glance, walking straight downstairs. Chu Lingxiao watched her back as she went downstairs. Today she wasn't staring at her phone like crazy, but it did let him see her cold-blooded side clearly. This trip could be considered a bit of a harvest. This person is indeed not your average level of difficult. For several days in a row, I didn't send a single message to Gu Qinghan until school was out for the holidays once again. I put on my backpack, planning to go home. The moment I pulled open the door of my rented place, I saw Gu Qinghan standing in the hallway, her tall figure blocking out a large amount of light, fiddling with a coin in her hand. How did you know I live here? I had indeed mentioned the place I rented to her, but I just didn't expect her to actually remember it. After all, she never cared about these trivial matters. Mu Chen. Gu Qinghan stood up straight, looking down at me in my clean shirt. I was dressed very freshly today, and my hair was neatly trimmed. Her gaze slowly drifted upward. My wrists were completely bare, without any accessories on either hand. I wasn't even wearing the watch she gave me before. Please excuse me. I'm going home, I said in a cold tone. Gu Qinghan blocked the entire doorway, making it impossible for me to just walk out. Are you sure you want to be like this? Gu Qinghan took 2 steps back, making some space for me in the hallway. I furrowed my eyebrows slightly, originally wanting to tell her not to flatter herself, but then I saw her holding a bag in her other hand. It slipped out of my mouth. Since when did you like eating sweets? Gu Qinghan turned her head to glance out the window, the hand holding the bag shrinking back slightly, just changing flavors once in a while. I didn't say a single thing. Gu Qinghan would never buy desserts on her own initiative. Oh right, she's together with that white moonlight hunk now, so buying desserts for a guy is totally normal. Whatever floats your boat. I hitched the backpack straps on my shoulders, then slammed the room door shut behind me. I looked down at the keychain in my hand. It had a Patrick Star design. The other matching SpongeBob one had been given to her, though I had never seen her carry it around. But right now, the keychain wasn't the main issue. I was absolutely sure about one thing. I had left my water bottle on the desk and forgot to take it. I glanced at Gu Qinghan standing next to me. Her eyes were fixed on her phone screen, looking as completely nonchalant as always. I really didn't want to see her right now, and I didn't even want to go back up for the water bottle. I turned right around and headed downstairs. Gu Qinghan followed me downstairs. The two of them moved with surprising synchronicity. Gu Qinghan casually checked her phone. It was a location pinned by Xia Moning, asking her to play basketball together again. She followed behind me with her long legs, looking not the least bit in a hurry. Her long legs naturally moved faster than mine, and she even text replied to the group chat along the way. I walked into the small convenience store downstairs and immediately bought a new keychain. This time, I specifically picked a crayon Shinchan one and swapped it onto my keys the moment I stepped out. Gu Qinghan watched me, tossed the Patrick Star keychain into the trash without a second thought. Gu Qinghan recalled that, on her own desk back in her room, that SpongeBob charm was still sitting there. She usually didn't need to carry her own keys when going out, so that thing had just been left at home to gather dust. After swapping the keychain, I looked off to the side. As expected, Gu Qinghan was no longer standing there. Seeing me throw away the couple's keychain, she should have understood exactly what I meant. A person like Gu Qinghan never backtracks on her choices. From this day forward, we probably won't have anything to do with each other anymore, nor will we have any opportunities to meet. I took a deep breath of the fresh air, went back upstairs to grab my water bottle, and finally headed home. Sitting quietly in the subway car, I unlocked my phone to check my messages and saw a text from my mom. She had to work the night shift again tonight, and my dad just happened to be away on a business trip recently. She asked if I wanted to go stay at my grandma's place. I didn't want to stay in an empty house all by myself, so I casually replied with a simple, okay. Riding just 2 more stops brought me to grandma's place. In this old residential compound, there were only 2 apartments per floor, and right across the hall was Chao Shuyue's home. The moment I pushed open grandma's door, I saw Chao Shuyue walking out carrying a plate of fruit. I almost thought I walked into the wrong apartment. Why did you run over to my grandma's house? Grandma had received word of my arrival in advance, so she wasn't surprised to see me back. Her wrinkled face crinkled with pure joy. Chen is back? Come over and rest a bit. We'll be ready to eat in a moment. Chao Shuyue set the fruit platter on the table. Seeing me walk in with my backpack, she casually poked a piece of mango and held it to my mouth. It's nothing special. I just came over to visit Grandma. Grandma watched me put down my backpack with a smile plastered on her face. I took the mango and bit off a huge chunk. She took my completely empty water bottle and turned around to refill it with the warm water for me. Chen, when you're not at home, it's always little Yue keeping me company. Oh really, she keeps you company? Just like how I usually keep you company. I playfully pinched Grandma's cheek. Grandma, how come you look like you've lost weight? No such thing. You really did lose weight. Chao Shuyue, come take a quick look. Did she lose weight? The liveliness inside the room drowned out the noise outside. Vehicles zoomed past on the asphalt road. Gu Qinghan sat in the back seat of the car with her eyes closed, still clutching that dessert bag in her hand. From the driver's seat, Uncle Lee glanced at the rearview mirror from time to time. After hesitating for a long while, he finally spoke up. Ching-han, your uncle has basically watched you grow up. When you go back home this time, whatever you do, don't argue with President Gu again. Things are different now compared to the past after all. Uncle Lee wanted to say that times have changed. The house now had a new mistress after all. If Fang Muning were to get pregnant with another child, then for a daughter like Gu Qinghan who caused conflicts every day, how could her father truly keep her in his heart? But seeing Gu Qinghan's exhausted expression with her eyes closed, he really couldn't bear to say those words out loud. If that woman actually got pregnant, okay, old Gu should just find his next young thing. Gu Qinghan sneered indifferently, with cold mockery. Back when her mother was pregnant with her, President Gu had already flagrantly kept mistresses outside. In all her years growing up, President Gu's side chicks changed one after another. There had never even been a 2-month dry spell. Fang Muning thought she was a big deal just by moving into the Gu family home. But who knows when her father would start keeping someone else outside again. Gu Qinghan had just entered the door holding the dessert bag, lowering her head at the entryway to change her shoes. So you actually remember you have a home? A man's voice came brimming with deep, booming rage. Gu Qinghan acted as if she hadn't heard a single thing. President Gu looked at his only daughter, who spent all day messing around at clubs and racing tracks, without a shred of a proper lifestyle. As for school, she only went whenever she randomly remembered. And if she didn't, she wouldn't show her face for a month or two. Last time, because of street racing in a group, she directly made the news reports, making him completely lose face as a father. Thinking of all these frustrating matters, President Gu's chest shook violently with anger. He grabbed the flower arrangement on the table and threw it at Gu Qinghan. Gu Qinghan didn't even tilt her head, her deep black eyes coldly staring at her father, as she let the thorny roses strike her. A tiny scratch was instantly sliced onto her cheek. On her cold, fair, and delicate skin, that little scratch was exceptionally conspicuous. Gu Qinghan didn't even blink her eyes, casually glancing at the scattered petals on the floor. Fang Muning stood up from the sofa, watching the flower arrangement she had put together get smashed to pieces. President Gu slammed the table hard. How come these flowers didn't have their thorns trimmed off? Fang Muning didn't expect that she would get dragged into trouble too. I'll definitely remember to trim them off beforehand next time. Don't throw such a huge tantrum first. Fang Muning quickly stood up, ordering the maids to clean up the ruined flowers, while gently patting President Gu's back to soothe him. Qinghan must have her own reasons. The child is still too young after all. What proper reason could she possibly have? She's already in college, you call that young? Gu Qinghan didn't even want to change into slippers, stepping right on the petals on the floor as she prepared to go upstairs. Fang Muning stared at the bag she was holding. Look, Qinghan even bought you something. The moment she walks in, you fly into a rage at the kid. Fang Muning continued patting President Gu's back. Although she was living in this grand villa now, she hadn't officially registered her marriage with President Gu yet, so her status in this household was still very unstable. Fang Muning had actually observed things in secret. Her father seemingly didn't care about this daughter at all, and usually spoke in a particularly harsh and nasty way. But in reality, he still cared immensely in his heart. Just like when he lost his temper and threw things just now, if he really wanted to ruthlessly hurt someone, he could have thrown the glass cup right next to his hand, and any of those options would have had the force to draw blood. Yet, he just happened to grab a bunch of harmless flowers. Seeing that a tiny scratch had been cut onto Gu Qinghan's face, President Gu himself actually got worried and angry first. Gu Qinghan raised the dessert bag in her hand. This is something I bought for my boyfriend. Why do you have to deliberately break his heart like that? Go ahead and trigger a heart attack from anger later so I can inherit the estate. President Gu's anger had just been slightly diffused by Fang Muning, but hearing such rebellious words, the muscles on his face twitched with pure rage. Get the hell out. Fang Muning tightly grabbed President Gu's wrist, anxiously speaking up to dissuade them. Qinghan, you are old Gu's only daughter. How can you anger your biological father like this? Hurry up and apologize to your dad right now. Gu Qinghan was stepping upstairs, her footsteps abruptly halting on the steps. She slowly turned her face sideways, the corner of her mouth curling into an extremely mocking smile, coldly looking at the man and woman in front of her. The red scratch left by the thorn at the corner of her eye instead added a bit of a wicked and wild aura to her vibe. Who the hell do you think you are? Mind your own stolen man first. His romantic scandals are still trending today. President Gu abruptly stood up from the sofa, violently flinging off Fang Muning's hand and rushed in front of Gu Qinghan in a few strides. The father and daughter were almost the same height. President Gu had been grinding in the business world for so many years and had always maintained strict management over his physique, completely free from the weight gain struggles of middle-aged men. The dominant aura radiating from his entire body, completely suppressing Gu Qinghan. The cold, detached look in Gu Qinghan's eyes was like an anonymous wildfire, thoroughly infuriating her father in front of her. Gu Qinghan seemed to think the fire wasn't burning bright enough, continuing, still lining up to find little starlets. Why didn't you bring them home to join the fun? President Gu forcefully suppressed the fury in his heart. his voice terrifyingly deep. Get the hell over here and eat. Can you even swallow your food? Haven't you had enough outside? Fang Muning quickly trotted forward. Qinghan, your dad is just showing concern for you. Stop talking with such passive-aggressive jabs from now on. Gu Qinghan's fingers toyed with the packaging bag, carelessly opening her mouth. I've always been this way. If you can't stand it, don't ask me to come back in the future. I called you back today because there's something to discuss. Sit down right now. Her father forcefully massaged his throbbing temples. Lest when people come over to the house, you blame me again for not notifying you in advance. Gu Qinghan fell into a brief silence, contemptuously curling the corner of her mouth. Leaning lazily against the solid wood railing of the stairs, she raised an eyebrow, gesturing for the other side to say what they had to say quickly. Fang Muning looked at the father and daughter who were at each other's throats, actively stepping between the two to smooth things over. Your father and I plan to officially register our marriage. Are you expecting an outsider like me to offer blessings? Gu Qinghan suddenly felt a churning sensation in her stomach. That nauseating feeling of chest spasms had long since become a regular occurrence. Holding her chest, she walked quickly out the main door, but was called out to sharply by her father from behind. From now on, whenever school is out for the holidays, your Aunt Guo's son will come over to stay. Fix your attitude and be polite to him. Just as her father's words fell, Gu Qinghan had already vanished without a trace. She rushed all the way outside the villa, dry heaving against the trash can by the roadside, yet she couldn't throw up anything at all. Gu Qinghan sat powerlessly on a stone bench to the side. Her phone screen lit up in the night, showing a message from President Gu. Upon seeing the text, she directly turned off the phone screen, not even bothering to spare a second glance. The actions of her father could always make her feel disgusted from the bottom of her heart, even making her feel like she herself was tainted by the filth. She had always done as she pleased by nature, and the people surrounding her were mostly the same, never having thought about being some deeply affectionate or faithful person. But to be completely without a bottom line like her father, changing side chicks one after another, she truly found it incredibly repulsive. That Fang Muning could actually force her father to register their marriage, this really went beyond Gu Qinghan's expectations. Her mother had been passed away for over a decade, and this was the third woman to register a marriage with her father, even bringing her son along to move into the house. It seemed her father had indeed genuinely fallen for her this time. In the dark of the night outside the villa, Gu Qinghan didn't know how long she had been sitting. Not until her phone suddenly rang with a notification chime, the screen abruptly lighting up, looking exceptionally piercing in the gloomy night. Fiddling with the phone with her slender fingertips, she casually glanced at the screen. The time had just jumped to exactly 12 a.m. In her message inbox list, there were texts sent from her father and Xia Moning, but the latest one surprisingly came from me. Gu Qinghan opened the chat box with one hand. Inside the chat interface, I had sent a string of cute birthday wishes. Happy birthday to baby Qinghan. You must stay happy every single day. Gu Qinghan stared fixedly at that kissing emoji. A full screen of birthday special effects popped up one after another, and then slowly faded away from the screen. In an instant, her entire being was stunned in place, and it took a good while before she snapped back to reality. Holding the phone tightly with both hands, she solemnly replied with a line of text. The phone screen lit up beside my pillow, without interrupting my sweet dreams. Early in the morning, Hao Shuyue came over to my house bringing breakfast. Grandma was in the kitchen baking flatbreads, and seeing Chao Shuyue push open the door to enter said, "Why did you go through the trouble of bringing breakfast all this way again? It's supposed to be us taking good care of you, Grandma. Didn't I say I'd handle breakfast during the holidays? You should hurry up and rest." Hao Shuyue placed the pork and century egg congee on the dining table, turning her head to look at my tightly shut bedroom door. Is Chen still sleeping in? Yeah, who knows what time he actually went to sleep last night? I nag him every single day not to stay up late, but this kid just won't listen to advice. Seeing that it wasn't easy for him to come home, I casually baked his absolute favorite flatbread. Grandma, I really didn't stay up late playing games last night. Yawning, I pushed open the bedroom door and offered a weak retort before rushing straight into the bathroom. After using the toilet and washing my face, I walked out. Xiao Shuyue handed me a face towel. Hurry up and dry your face. Then come over to eat breakfast. I casually took the face towel and messily wiped away the water droplets on my face. Sis, I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. At least let me finish washing up first. After saying that, I turned around and went back to my room. Xiao Shuyue knew I was heading back to grab my phone, so she sat quietly by the dining table waiting for me. Grandma shook her head helplessly to the side. This wretched kid, he has to stare at his phone even while brushing his teeth. Thank God he hasn't become nearsighted. Xiao Shuyue pushed her glasses up, feeling a bit guilty. And sure enough, Grandma started her daily nagging again. Little Yue, everyone in your family has pretty good eyesight, so how come you're the only one wearing glasses? I'm so dead. My sudden scream echoed from inside the room. Xiao Shuyue and Grandma were so startled, they almost dropped their chopsticks. The two of them hurriedly got up and ran over to check the situation. Chen, what happened? What's wrong? What's wrong? Grandma pushed open the bedroom door, with Xiao Shuyue following closely behind. only to see me kneeling by the bed, completely losing my composure, clutching my phone and frantically slamming my head against the pillow next to me. I'm so dead. I'm so dead. I'm seriously so dead. Grandma stroked my hair with concern. Phooey, what kind of nonsense are you talking about first thing in the morning? I'm really beyond saving this time. I'm completely done for. I stared at the message on my phone that had been set half a month ago to be sent automatically on a timer. I felt an extreme wave of regret hitting my heart. How on earth did I forget to delete Gu Qinghan from my friends list? What's even more fatal is that I forgot to cancel the scheduled text. Qiao Shuyue leaned over to glance at the screen, frowning as she asked, "So it was an automated text?" I shoved the phone right into Qiao Shuyue's hands, throwing my head back as I began to talk crazy in agony. I don't even want this trash phone anymore. This message was sent by you. It was absolutely not sent by me. Grandma curiously glanced at the chat history and read it out loud with a beaming smile. Baby Chenchen says, "Wish baby Qinghan a happy birthday." Oh my goodness, you young people talk so mushy nowadays. Grandma grabbed my hand and asked with eyes full of gossip, "Chenchen, are you secretly dating behind my back? Which family's little girl is this Qinghan?" Qiao Shuyue let out a cold laugh from the side. He sent such a long string of mushy words, but the other person just coldly replied, "Mu Chen, thank you." Not a single extra word, just paired with an indifferent period. I glared intensely at Qiao Shuyue next to me, passing the buck through gritted teeth. You were the one who used my phone to send it. Anyway, when the time comes, I'll just say it was your prank. Who told you to stand right here and mock me? Do you think she would believe such absolute BS? Grandma smiled and tried to soothe me from the side. All right. It's no big deal. Nothing to get worked up about. Hurry up, wash your hands and go eat. In my agony, I tightly hugged Grandma's waist. Grandma, I'm completely not in the mood right now. I specifically baked meat flatbreads for you, so you absolutely must eat. Gu Qinghan returned to her hotel room alone. She hadn't replied to Xia Moning's messages at all last night. Presumably, Xia Moning was still in the hospital right now, and also found out about the fact that she paid for a caregiver. She felt exhausted, and didn't even bother to explain anymore. President Gu sent over the location pinned for the birthday banquet, using the guise of celebrating her birthday, when in reality, it was just another boring business social event. Gu Qinghan threw herself down on the large bed sprawled out, staring blankly at the ceiling above her head. Her mind was completely filled with the birthday wishes I had sent, the flashing hearts, cakes, and roses, and that last playful kissing emoji. I really want to kiss him hard. Gu Qinghan unconsciously raised her hand, her cool fingertips gently pressing against her own lips, remembering how I usually acted around her. She subconsciously licked her dry lips. The moment she realized her strange behavior, she abruptly sat up from the bed, tightly pursing her red lips. Annoyed, she tapped open her phone screen, copied the pinned location sent by her father, and blast sent a mass message to the group. The messages to everyone else showed successful delivery, except inside my specific chat box, where a glaring red exclamation mark lit up. Gu Qinghan instantly took a screenshot to save it, then quickly opened the text interface. The chat history was still stuck on messages from days ago. When she tried to send that screenshot just now, the system gave a cold prompt, "Must add friend first." Gu Qinghan clenched her jaw tightly, her jawline stiffening completely. She walked with fast strides out to the room's balcony, griping the phone in her hand with force. Her knuckles were already turning slightly white. Her chest heaved violently out of pure anger. I actually really blocked her. All the messaging contacts were blocked completely clean, and she had actually been foolishly staring just now, dazing off at the chat box for the longest time. It was absolutely ridiculous to the extreme. Not knowing how long she stood on the balcony, her father suddenly called to urge her. Only then did Gu Qinghan realize her clothes had long since been soaked through with cold sweat. She decisively hung up the phone, walked to the sink, and washed her face forcefully with cold water, not until her fair cheeks were rubbed red. In the mirror, that tiny scratch on her cheek, because it touched water, oozed tiny beads of blood again. She messily grabbed a tissue to press down on the wound. Her father's messages popped up again on the screen. Gu Qinghan flipped the phone face down directly on the table, took a cold shower, calmed herself down, changed into clean clothes, and left the room. Hao Shuyue looked at the invitation received on her phone. New City District Xing Xing Restaurant on Mingming Avenue. Welcome everyone to attend Gu Qinghan's birthday banquet. Holding up my phone to make a call, I put on my shoulder bag at the same time, with my water bottle habitually hanging on my wrist. Hey, I got it. It's right over by Mingming Avenue, right? Got it, you guys. Go ahead and play at the court first. Qiao Shuyue and I are taking the subway and will be right there. After hanging up the phone, I noticed Qiao Shuyue was still standing there dazing off, so I hurriedly urged, "Let's go." "Why are you still standing around without changing your shoes?" "You blocked all of her contact info." Qiao Shuyue suddenly opened her mouth to ask. My movements paused for a moment. Yeah. Hao Shuyue held up her phone screen in front of me, staring at Gu Qinghan's birthday invitation on it. I asked in confusion, "When did you add her contact info?" "On WeChat. Last time the counselor asked me to contact her to fill out a form, so I just added her directly from the class group." I gave an indifferent, "Oh." "She probably just mass sent it. No need to care. She should have found out by now that you blocked her, right? Even if she knows, so what? It's not like she can run over here to settle scores with me. I forcefully pushed Qiao Shuyue's shoulder. Dear, stop talking about her, okay? Let's hurry up and head out. Shenting Chuan and the others are still waiting at the court. Few of us had long since agreed to play tennis. Shenting Chuan and the guys had already been waiting at the court for quite a while. Qiao Shuyue casually took my sports bag, unable to resist complaining. Going out carrying a water bottle and a backpack. You really look like a kid who never grows up. I love drinking water. Is that a crime? Thanks for helping me carry the bag. I held my phone scrolling through Bai Yushi's photos. Ah, Sister Shi is simply too gorgeous. Hao Shuyue gave the screen a faint glance, without saying a single extra word. Inside the banquet hall of the luxury Xing Xing restaurant, the lobby decoration was grand and magnificent. The invited guests wore gorgeous formal attire, holding red wine glasses and chatting in small groups. The main door was slowly pushed open from the outside. Gu Qinghan walked in wearing a pure black gown. Even though it was an extremely minimalist style, yet it perfectly outlined her graceful body curves. Her cold white skin gleamed under the lights, her collarbones exquisite, and her jawline beautiful yet sharp. President Gu saw her show up as agreed, and smiled at the middle-aged man beside him saying, "Look, speak of the devil and she appears. We were just talking about her and here she is." The middle-aged man beside him smiled and raised his glass. The young guy next to him said with smiling eyes, "Dad, I'll go over and chat with Gu Qinghan." Go ahead, go ahead." The man nodded with eyes full of doting. The backgrounds of the two families were a perfect match. If the young kids could get along well or even form a marriage alliance, it would bring immense benefits to the business of both families. President Gu watched the young guy actively run toward Gu Qinghan and couldn't help but say with emotion, "Young people still share a common language after all." "Gu Qinghan," Zhang Yusin called out with a clear voice, running over with light steps. Gu Qinghan carelessly raised her eyes, faintly responding, "Zhang Yusin." Zhang Yusin stood obediently in front of her. Her long hair was slightly curled, draped over her shoulders, and her long eyelashes lowered slightly. In those narrow, attractive black eyes, there was a touch of cold detachment that kept people 1,000 miles away. Her figure was tall and outstanding, with a unique aura that others couldn't replicate. Gu Qinghan indifferently scanned the venue, casually picking up a glass of champagne from a waiter's tray. Gu Qinghan was about to pass Zhang Yusin and walk inside, but he boldly grabbed her arm. "Hey, your dad specifically asked me to hang out with you, so don't bother joining the elders over there." Gu Qinghan stopped her steps and turned around, calmly pulling her arm away, her voice carrying a hint of cold confusion. "Hang out? Doing what?" The tips of Zhang Yusin's ears turned slightly red, and he hurriedly nodded in agreement. Yeah. Didn't we used to play together a lot when we were kids? Once this boring banquet is over, how about we go to the new tennis court my dad opened? There are too many people at courts. I don't want to go." Gu Qinghan threw her head back and downed a large gulp of champagne, walking to the sofa in the corner to sit down. She casually left the half-empty glass on the table. "But that's my family's private venue. I can call them right now to clear the place." Gu Qinghan didn't even raise her head, lowering it to focus intently on her phone screen. Zia Moning was sending messages frantically questioning why she had suddenly invited him to the birthday banquet in the mass group chat. Gu Qinghan typed on the keyboard with one hand, "Don't come. It's just a bunch of hypocritical show-offs." Zia Moning replied with a speechless string of ellipses. Gu Qinghan's gaze unconsciously drifted back to the chat box where I had blocked her. That red exclamation mark was still exceptionally piercing. She looked up and glanced at Zhang Yusin beside her, her tone carrying a bit of laziness. "Where is your tennis court located at?" Zhang Yusin immediately straightened his back in joy, smiling incredibly brightly. "I'll drive you over right now. I'll also arrange for the manager to clear the court immediately. The court is super close to here. Let's go to the lounge and wait for 10 minutes, and we can go in and play very soon." Gu Qinghan nodded gently, picked up the glass on the table, and drained it in one gulp. She stood up and walked straight out the main door. Zhang Yusin hurriedly followed, his heart full of joy. President Gu saw the two of them leave together so quickly, and didn't say much, feeling very satisfied. Just as Gu Qinghan pulled open the car door and sat inside, Zhang Yusin also sat in the back row with her. Right at this moment, her father sent a message of instruction: interact more with Yusin, and get along well. A wave of annoyance inexplicably welled up in Gu Qinghan's heart, like a sharp thorn stuck in her chest. She originally had no intention of playing tennis at all, but she didn't know why her brain short-circuited just now, and she agreed. "Isn't he just a Muchen? If the friend is deleted, then so be it. What's the big deal?" Gu Qinghan comforted herself with irritation in her heart. Zhang Yusin secretly turned his head to look at Gu Qinghan, seeing her leaning back against the leather car seat with her head up, her eyes looking somewhat empty and lost. Arriving at the parking lot outside the tennis court, Zhang Yusin considerately got out of the car first and opened a massive sun umbrella. Gu Qinghan faintly glanced at the umbrella, then looked at the tennis court entrance just a few steps away. The image of Qiao Shuyue gently holding an umbrella for me unexpectedly flashed across her mind. She moved her slightly numb shoulder. After stepping out of the car, she squinted her eyes slightly at the glaring sun, her heart filled with a lingering confusion. Why on earth did he delete me from his friends list? Inside the indoor hall of the tennis court, our group hadn't even played a few rallies before the staff came over with an apologetic face to refund our money, saying the court suddenly received a special notice and would not be open for business today. Lin Zixian was right in the middle of enjoying the game. Holding his tennis racket, he questioned in dissatisfaction. I haven't even finished warming up or broken a sweat yet. What exactly is going on? The staff could only bow and apologize repeatedly. We are truly very sorry. Some emergencies popped up suddenly. We will give you a full refund and additionally compensate you with a few high-value coupons. We hope you customers can understand. Qiao Shuyue neatly packed away her racket, patting Lin Zixian to soothe him. Forget it. We'll just find another place to play. Muyang lowered his head and couldn't help but complain in a low voice. What's up with today? This is the second place we've had to change in a row. The one we usually go to happened to be closed. And we finally managed to find this place after much effort, only for it to fall through before we could even play much. I shrugged helplessly and joked, maybe some domineering female CEO booked the whole venue specifically for her boy toy. The five of us usually aren't ones to fuss over things. Since the money was refunded and we got free coupons for the court, we quickly packed up our things and prepared to leave. I looked around the empty surroundings. Just as I opened my mouth to shout, my bag, Qiao Shuyue shook the bag she was carrying in her hand and casually replied, it's all here. Let's hurry up and go. Just as I took a step to follow, I suddenly slapped my own forehead hard. Wait a minute. I left my water bottle in the lounge area. Qiao Shuyue reached out to stop me just as I was about to turn back. You stay here and wait like a good boy. I know exactly where it was left. I'll just make a trip back to find it. Zhang Yusen noticed Gu Qinghan suddenly stop her step, her gaze staring intently at another spot in the lobby as she spaced out. Following her gaze with some confusion, he saw 3 guys and 2 girls together. The fresh and clean-cut guy in the middle had his back turned to them. Zhang Yusen curiously sized up the few people over there, then turned his head to look at Gu Qinghan beside him, feeling a bit puzzled in his heart. That type doesn't really look like someone you'd like. Gu Qinghan gave him a cold glance, suddenly questioning him, didn't you say just now that you were clearing the court? Zhang Yusen listened with a strange look on his face, answering righteously, didn't you complain that it was too crowded and noisy? Gu Qinghan slowly lowered her head, staring at Zhang Yusen with a highly oppressive gaze, her tone completely flat. Chasing guests away carelessly like this will interfere with your dad's business and profit. Zhang Yusen waved his hand indifferently. My dad opened this court just for fun. He doesn't care about this small-time business at all. Gu Qinghan nodded gently without confirming or denying, unable to resist glancing out of the corner of her eye toward the other side of the lobby. She saw the tall Qiao Shuyue carrying a blue water bottle printed with a cinema roll pattern walking out from the distant lounge area. Gu Qinghan's tense jawline became increasingly obvious. Why is it this omnipresent Qiao Shuyue again? Seeing her constantly spacing out and being absent-minded, Zhang Yusen actively stepped forward to block her view, his tone carrying a bit of impatience from being ignored. Are you actually going in to play tennis or not? Only then did Gu Qinghan barely snap back to reality, turning around to walk toward the VIP reception room without a word. Thank you. I happily held the water bottle in my arms and gave Qiao Shuyue a big thumbs up. Then Zixian watched from the side and shook his head repeatedly, unable to resist teasing me, man. Why are you always so scatterbrained? I loudly shot back with a face full of defiance. I only brought 2 things with me today in total. Just 1 bag and this water bottle. How am I scatterbrained? The group of us was walking out while laughing and talking. A few people were talking and laughing on their way out. Seeing that we were about to walk out the main door of the court, a staff member suddenly ran over, covered in sweat. Everyone, I am truly very sorry. A guest in the VIP lounge would like to invite you guys back, asking if you'd be willing to stay and play tennis together. The staff member wiped the sweat from his forehead, while awkwardly explaining things to us, forcing people out of the door just now, and now eagerly running back to invite them back in. Anyone would find this extremely awkward. Qiao Shuyue frowned slightly, looking at the staff member, and asked in confusion, may I ask who it is? The staff member replied respectfully, that guest said they are a friend of Miss Qiao. Lin Zixian excitedly punched Qiao Shuyue's shoulder, laughing and teasing, not bad. Qiao Shuyue, when did you make such an influential and capable friend? Qiao Shuyue frowned even harder, her face completely written with confusion. I have no idea who it is either. Meanwhile, inside the luxurious VIP lounge, Zhang Yusen stood by the leather sofa, with his arms crossed throwing a tantrum. You clearly promised to accompany me here to play tennis, so why did you suddenly invite friends out of nowhere? He intentionally raised his voice a few notches, carrying obvious questioning and dissatisfaction. Gu Qinghan, however, was sitting on the sofa, slowly swirling the exquisite teacup in her hand. Her deep gaze drifted along with the ripples, swirling in the cup little by little. Gu Qinghan's tone was full of nonchalance. I never said I'd accompany you. He stomped his foot hard in anger, grabbed the teacup from the table, threw his head back and downed the tea in one gulp. Then he slammed the cup down in a huff, making a sharp clinking sound as the bottom hit the table. The group followed the staff member and arrived at the empty tennis court. I turned my head to look at Chao Shuyue. How come your friend isn't here yet? The staff member bowed slightly. They are currently changing clothes. Please wait for a moment, everyone. Lin Zixian sat to the side with his arms crossed, complaining with a face full of annoyance. Since they invited us, why are they making everyone wait? I unscrewed my bottle and took a sip of water, staring intently at the entrance of the tennis court. Who exactly is Chao Shuyue's friend? Just then Shenqing Chuan tugged at me, his tone carrying a bit of surprise. Mu Chen, look over there quickly. Isn't that Gu Qinghan? I looked in the direction he was pointing, and with just one glance, I was certain it was her. Gu Qinghan was wearing black sportswear, followed by a handsome guy behind her. The two of them had extremely similar outfits, giving off a vibe that looked quite like matching couple outfits. Gu Qinghan walked straight toward me. There was a band-aid stuck near the corner of her eye. There shouldn't be any fight scenes at this timeline. So what exactly happened? Hao Shuyue took a step forward, blocking the gaze that Gu Qinghan cast over. Lin Zixian stood to the side and questioned, "Were you the one who called us back?" Just as Gu Qinghan caught sight of my figure, she was blocked by the two of them. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Didn't you guys want to play tennis?" Hao Shuyue's gaze was cold and sharp. "Don't you think pretending to be my friend is going too far?" Gu Qinghan flashed a cynical smile. "More than just going too far. It's practically shameless." I tugged at the corner of Chao Shuyue's shirt. "Let's go back." Gu Qinghan's gaze turned ice cold, staring at my hand clutching the corner of the shirt. Then she raised her eyes and let out a light laugh. "Are you not even brave enough to play a game of tennis?" Lin Zixian snorted coldly. "Who's not brave enough? Bring it on. I'll go first." I let go of Chao Shuyue's shirt, having completely forgotten about Lin Zixian's reckless nature. "All right, you've got guts." Gu Qinghan tilted her head and raised her hand, signaling Jia Moning and Lin Xiao to walk over, with a stranger also following beside them. 5 people on each side for the match. Gu Qinghan casually arranged. I looked at her side, which was filled entirely with girls, and frowned slightly, opening my mouth to protest. "Your side is all girls. This isn't fair at all." Gu Qinghan's gaze remained glued to me. "How about I switch over to your side?" I took a wary step back. "Who wants you over here?" Xiao Shuyue immediately stepped forward. "It's a deal then. Who goes first?" Jia Moning stood out with her racket. "I'll go first." Everyone thought Chao Shuyue was going to play, but she patted Lin Zixian instead. "You go first. Play well." Lin Zixian walked onto the court with a helpless face. I sat on the bench, tightly gripping my water bottle, looking tense. I didn't know if Lin Zixian could win. Mu Yang was also nervously clenching his hands. Jia Moning didn't look professional at all, but Lin Zixian didn't back down either. I looked over at Gu Qinghan's side. Except for that guy watching the game, everyone else was looking down at their phones. Gu Qinghan, who was opposite us, raised her head, and her gaze met mine across the court. I instantly panicked a bit, hurriedly lowering my head to unscrew the cap to drink water. Mu Yang asked in confusion from the side, "Doesn't it have a straw? Why are you unscrewing it to drink?" I licked my lips to cover up the awkwardness. "It's more convenient to drink this way." Shenqing Chuan chimed in from the side. "Didn't you used to love biting the straw?" I cleared my throat and brushed it off. "Biting straws isn't good. I need to break the habit." Chao Shuyue looked down at me. "If you break it, I'll buy you that camera. Why do you suddenly want to change it now?" I casually made up an explanation. "Even if you buy it, it's just for display." Completely ignoring the gaze from the opposite side, Zhang Yusin watched the match on the court and realized Jia Moning didn't know how to play at all. He anxiously leaned in close to Gu Qinghan. "Is your friend even reliable?" Gu Qinghan turned her head and glanced at him. "She has never played tennis before." Zhang Yusin had a face full of shock. "Then why did you ask her to come?" "To play, just to pass the time." Gu Qinghan's tone was extremely casual. Zhang Yusin was too angry to speak. "Gu Qinghan, tell me honestly, is there someone you like on the other side?" Gu Qinghan scanned me with her peripheral vision, then looked down at the patterns on the floor. "Can you shut up?" Lin Zixian relaxed as he played. "And here I thought you were a pro." Jia Moning nodded slightly. Good game, good game." It was supposed to be Shenqing Chuan's turn to play, but I actively held him back. "Let me go this time." Zhang Yusin was just about to go on court, but Gu Qinghan picked up her racket. "I'm taking this round." Zhang Yusin was a bit stubborn. "I can obviously do it myself." Gu Qinghan shook the racket in her hand. "I find him annoying to look at. I must play this round." Zhang Yusin glanced at me, somewhat failing to understand why. I was handsome and tall, clearly the type she would like. Gu Qinghan walked up to the net and looked at me. "Why change players? Why did you delete my contact info?" Her voice clearly reached my ears. I was left speechless, not knowing how to answer. I had learned tennis for a few days before and originally wanted to go all out and give it a try. But the plot of the original novel flashed in my mind. Gu Qinghan would completely crush the pro tennis team captain just to save that guy. I didn't want to be a foil for their romance. My posture, which was originally poised and ready, relaxed. I silently told myself in my heart, I forfeit. I looked at Gu Qinghan with a clear gaze. Gu Qinghan gripped the racket in her hand tighter. What did you just say? I took a deep breath, my eyes turning slightly red. I said I forfeit. I dropped the racket and left in a hurry. Xiao Shuyue picked up her bag and followed, telling Lin Zixian to bring the racket back. The racket in Gu Qinghan's hand dropped. Jia Moning and Lin Xiao walked over. What's going on? Why did he suddenly leave? Jia Moning picked up the racket from the ground. Didn't we agree to lose to him on purpose? How are we supposed to play out this drama now? Gu Qinghan stuffed the ball to Jia Moning. I have some business to take care of. I'm leaving first. Jia Moning looked at her back. She's clearly chasing after her man. Lin Xiao shook her head. Gu Qinghan has always been the one being chased. This Mu Chen kid is really something. Just as Gu Qinghan chased out of the tennis court, she received a phone call from her father. With a face full of impatience, she hung up. Her father sent a text message questioning her for leaving the guest behind all by himself. Gu Qinghan turned off her phone completely. Catching sight of Xiao Shuyue's figure, she quickly quickened her pace to chase after them. Mu Chen, wait up. Xiao Shuyue followed closely behind me. At least make things clear to me. What exactly happened? I lowered my head, walking in a great hurry. Xiao Shuyue, stop following me. I can go back by myself. Xiao Shuyue's tone was full of worry. How can I feel safe letting you go alone? My voice trembled slightly. I'm not a kid anymore. You're exactly like a kid throwing a tantrum, running off wildly just because you lost something. She grabbed my arm inside. How about going over to that billboard and having a good cry? Trying to break free, I turned my head away. I'm not crying. Xiao Shuyue let go of my hand and took a few steps back. I slowly moved behind the billboard, bearing my head as my shoulders trembled slightly. Xiao Shuyue gently walked over, standing to the side to guard me quietly. Gu Qinghan saw this scene and was about to run over recklessly, but the green light suddenly changed, and a surge of traffic rushed by. A black sedan slowly pulled over, and her father's face appeared behind the car window. Get in the car right now. Her father's tone was flat but carried an absolute authority. Gu Qinghan ignored him and kept walking. Two men got out of the car to block her path. Gu Qinghan turned around with a face full of hostility. What do you want? Her father repeated once more, get in. The fact that you registered your marriage with that woman has absolutely nothing to do with me. Let me go. Gu Qinghan's words were extremely fierce. Her father silently rolled up the car window. The bodyguard still didn't make way. Suppressing the rage in her heart, Gu Qinghan pulled open the car door and sat in the back seat. She locked eyes with her father through the rearview mirror. First, drop me off right ahead. Who is up ahead that's making you so anxious? Her father asked casually, noticing Gu Qinghan was wearing an old watch. Why didn't you change to a new watch? You change men faster than I change watches. Gu Qinghan's tone was full of sarcasm. Her father was so angry that his temple throbbed slightly. The car slowly pulled over to the curb. Her father looked outside through the car window. Is this your little boyfriend? Her father's tone carried a hint of mockery. Gu Qinghan looked at me outside the car. I was curled up, squatting on the ground. Xiao Shuyue was guarding me like a sentinel. The girl beside him is his girlfriend, right? Don't tell me you want to butt in. Gu Qinghan turned her head and kicked a car ornament coldly. The ornament fell under the car seat. The driver gasped in fear. You won't rest until you anger me to death, will you? Gu Qinghan looked out of the glass window. Xiao Shuyue was patting my head. The distance between them was gradually pulling away. The moment you retire, I'll take over the company. Gu Qinghan casually quipped. Her father was too angry to pay her any attention. Gu Qinghan opened her phone to check her messages. Lin, Xiao, and the others had originally planned to lose to me on purpose during the match. But who would have thought I'd run off ruining the plan? Gu Qinghan followed far behind her father and kept her distance all the way back home. The moment she stepped in, she didn't even look at the living room, walking straight upstairs. Stand still, where are you going? Her father shouted sternly toward the stairwell. Gu Qinghan kept walking without turning her head. Chu Lingxiao was waiting with high expectations, but he didn't even see a shadow of Gu Qinghan. Fang Muning stood up to soothe her husband, softly telling Chu Lingxiao to be a good boy. Her father caught sight of Chu Lingxiao's face. You must be Chu Lingxiao, right? My daughter has a bad temper. Please bear with her. Chu Lingxiao responded softly to Gu's father. I think Qinghan is actually quite nice. We interacted back at the hospital. Fang Muning pressed on with a face full of surprise. When did you go to the hospital? At this time, Gu Qinghan came downstairs from above, her gaze locked tightly onto Fang Muning. Where are the things in my room? I said don't touch my stuff. Fang Muning clasped her hands together, looking ill at ease. I just had the maid clean up the room a bit. Gu Qinghan took a deep breath, her tone full of thick mockery. You're really something. The butler walked in respectfully. Your package is in the attic. It's a birthday gift from a friend. Gu Qinghan nodded. Fang Muning leaned in close to Gu Qinghan's side. Today is Ling Xiao's first time here. Let's all sit down as a family and have a meal. Hearing Chu Ling Xiao's name, a trace of hostility surfaced between Gu Qinghan's brows. Your mom is so capable. Why does she still make you do part-time jobs? Chu Ling Xiao smiled quietly, making no reply. Fang Muning, trying to ease the tension, said, Ling Xiao's grades are excellent. He's definitely among the best. Gu Qinghan gave a disdainful smile. And here I thought you actually cared about him? Chu Lingxiao forced a smile to explain. Sang University doesn't have a ranking system for grades. The nanny walked in carrying a cardboard box. All the cleared out junk is in here. Gu Qinghan strode over and instantly spotted a bright yellow box. Taking out a keychain, she discarded everything else. Gu's father watched from the side and said, just for a little trinket like that. Is it worth throwing such a tantrum? Gu Qinghan tightly clenched the item in her hand. No one is allowed to touch my things. Watching this hypocritical scene, Chu Lingxiao had mixed feelings in his heart, filled with jealousy. He pulled out his phone to send a message. Can you share Mu Chen's contact card with me? We hit it off pretty well the last time we met. On the other side, I was walking on the asphalt road, having just hung up a phone call from my mom. Xiao Shuyue followed closely behind me the whole time. Do you want to be alone? I stuffed my phone into her hand. Of course not. My frustrated mood cleared up quite a bit. Let's invite them all to a bar tomorrow. Xiao Shuyue let out a sigh. Well, I'll be keeping an eye on you anyway. I picked up my phone to reply to messages and saw a friend request from Chu Lingxiao. This guy suddenly added me. Do you think I should accept it? Xiao Shuyue glanced at the screen. Maybe he wants something. Add him and see. Gu Qinghan returned to her room alone, looking at that bright yellow gift box. It was a gift I gave her before we got together. Gu Qinghan pinched the ribbon with her fingers, remembering the figures of Xiao Shuyue and me. Unrequited love stealing someone else's man. She spat out those words through gritted teeth and tossed the box heavily to the side. Gu Qinghan never actively provoked others. Originally, I was one of her pursuers too, but excessive enthusiasm only annoyed her. Until that one fight incident, when Xia Moning's shop got trashed by thugs. Gu Qinghan rode her bike over to back her up, and I followed behind wearing casual clothes. Gu Qinghan arrived at the chaotic alley entrance and cleanly knocked out the troublemaker with her helmet. I rushed over and grabbed her arm. Qinghan, are you okay? Gu Qinghan's voice was cold. Let go first. I grabbed her right hand. You're bleeding. Does it hurt? We need to get to the hospital right away. Gu Qinghan's gaze fell onto my hand. This is someone else's blood. I let out a long sigh of relief, calming down, and carefully wiped away the bloodstains from her hand. Xia Moning cried out in alarm from the side. Mu Chen, your arm is bleeding. Gu Qinghan instantly grabbed my hand, her eyes carrying a powerful, oppressive gaze. I explained awkwardly I was just passing by. Lin Xiao handed over a band-aid. Gu Qinghan tore open the packaging and put it on for me. Her gaze was focused, and her expression was serious. I'm going to keep this band-aid for the rest of my life. My excited voice trembled slightly. Gu Qinghan ruffled my hair. Don't mess up your hair. I hurriedly smoothed down the hair she had messed up. Gu Qinghan glanced at the alley entrance. Since things are solved, let's go. Xia Moning thought she was talking to him, until the car keys were handed directly to me. Only then did I suddenly snap out of it. Aren't you coming with us? Lin Xiao gave me a meaningful look, then turned her head to look at Gu Qinghan, seeming to understand everything in an instant. She dragged Xia Moning along and left in a hurry, looking at their departing backs. I quickly wiped the silly grin off my face. I raised my hand and waved at Gu Qinghan. Bye. Gu Qinghan also raised her hand, copying my exact gesture from just now, but her feet didn't move. She just curled her forefingers slightly, making a beckoning gesture toward me. I obediently shuffled 2 steps toward her. Qinghan, do you have something else to tell me? Gu Qinghan parted her lips slightly, pointing her fingertip at the band-aid on my arm. Remember to change the dressing. I tried my best to suppress the smile tugging at my lips, nodding my head with great force. I will change it. But you put this on yourself, so I'll absolutely never throw it away. Let's go, Gu Qinghan said, tilting her head slightly. I obediently took 2 steps outward, but couldn't help turning my head back. Bye-bye. Gu Qinghan couldn't help but let out a light laugh. Go right. I glanced to the right. Oh, but my house is to the left. Gu Qinghan grabbed my wrist in one swift motion, leading me 2 steps to the right, pointing at a newly opened pharmacy. Seeing that I was still standing there like an idiot, she simply dragged me straight inside. After buying the iodine and band-aids, she hooked the plastic bag around her fingertip and handed the items right in front of me. I tilted my head up and asked curiously, are these bought for me? Gu Qinghan didn't hand the bag over to me, instead keeping it in her hand. I'll walk you back. I hurriedly shook my head. No need. The sun is so harsh today. But what if you get heat stroke? Let me hail a ride for you instead. I pulled out my phone and tapped open the ride-hailing app. Thank you so much for today. Gu Qinghan suddenly spoke up, make a request. After saying those words, her gaze locked tightly onto me. I subconsciously raised my head, and my eyes crashed straight into hers. Gu Qinghan lowered her eyes slightly, her gaze quietly landing on my face. I bit my lip nervously. My mind tangled to the absolute limit. The bright sunshine poured down, making her eyes look incredibly clear and bright. In her eyes, even the faint fuzz on the side of my face was clearly visible. A request? Can I make any request I want? Gu Qinghan glanced at the water bottle on my waist. The sticker on it was almost scratched off by me. Suppressing the smile at the corner of her lips, she gave a soft response. Yeah. The moment her reply landed, I excitedly spun around in a circle right where I stood. I looked at her with a face full of smiles, my eyes crinkling into beautiful crescents. Wait up, wait up. Gu Qinghan remained quiet and didn't speak. I pulled her hand and ran forward, specifically choosing paths with fewer people. I took big strides and jogged, while her gaze fell on the hand I was holding. She followed my pace with effortless ease. Together, we stepped into the shadows. Gu Qinghan had always been one to keep her emotions hidden, and at this moment she was also puzzled about what I wanted to do. In fact, her words just now had already given me a promise. No matter what request I made, she would most likely agree to it. I smiled, letting go of her hand, and turned around instantly. After a short moment, her phone rang. It was a text message I sent her. My request is for Gu Qinghan to be my girlfriend. Gu Qinghan lowered her head and let out a light laugh. Sure. I immediately took 2 steps toward her, but then caught myself off guard and took a step back. You agreed? Gu Qinghan looked away, one hand holding her phone hanging by her side, while her other hand was casually stuffed in her pocket. Her posture looked extremely lazy, yet it exuded a vibe of effortless cool and freedom. Otherwise, did you expect me to reject you? I hopped on the spot twice in excitement. No way! My voice was filled with joy that couldn't be suppressed. When we arrived at the entrance of my neighborhood, Gu Qinghan turned around, getting ready to leave. I hooked my fingers around hers in one swift move. Wait, Qinghan. She tilted her head slightly to look at me. I reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Gu Qinghan raised her eyebrow slightly. We literally just got together, and you already dare to touch my phone. Pretty bold, aren't you? I handed her the phone with the screen lit up to unlock it. What are you trying to do? Gu Qinghan asked while unlocking it. You'll find out in a second. I took the unlocked phone, turned my back to her, and quickly tapped away. Gu Qinghan stood quietly behind me, watching me, directly change her contact nickname for me in her messages. I changed it to Baby Chenchen. She knit her brows slightly, but she didn't step in to stop me. Done, I stuffed the phone back into her pocket, looking into her eyes with a beaming smile. Tomorrow morning, I have an early shift. What do you want to eat? I'll bring it over on my way. Tomorrow, we'll sit together in class, and on Friday, let's have dinner together, okay? Snapping out of the trip down memory lane, Gu Qinghan pushed the door open and returned home. She told the servant to put the gifts into the storage room. Should I unpack this yellow box too? Aunt Wang asked, pointing at the gift on the sofa. Gu Qinghan cast a flat glance at it. Yeah. Just as Aunt Wang was about to untie the ribbon, she was instantly called out and stopped by her. Leave it there for now. Aunt Wang's movement froze abruptly. Then should I put it back to its original spot for you? Gu Qinghan felt extremely frustrated in her heart, so she just nodded gently. Looking at the message sent by Xia Moning, inviting her to a bar tonight to relax. She originally wanted to just flat out refuse, but she really couldn't stay in her room any longer. Her chest felt tight wave after wave. Going to a bar might actually suppress her emotions. So she simply replied with one word, go. She went to the cloakroom and grabbed a thin blazer. Right as she was heading out the door, she specially left a note for Aunt Wang. Don't touch that yellow box. All right, Aunt Wang replied, looking up. After saying that, Gu Qinghan turned around and left. Inside the Nightfall bar, the lighting was dim. For once, I wore a black button-up shirt, making my whole look appear fresh and clean. Mu Yang pulled me from the side. You're already dressed so sharp. Why are you still wearing a pair of plain white sneakers? Shen Qingchuan looked down to assess it. It really is a bit mismatched. I stomped on the floor hard. But these shoes are comfy. Wearing other shoes gives me crazy blisters. Knowing that we were coming to a bar tonight, Lin Zixian had specially changed into a black button-up too, looking a lot more mature than before. I turned my head and glanced at Qiao Shuyue. I already told you to change into some more mature clothes, but you just had to wear this white shirt? You practically have student written all over your face. I am a student to begin with. Cao Shuyue replied nonchalantly. We found a table in the corner and sat down. At this time, there weren't too many people in the bar yet. I scanned the slightly empty surroundings, unable to help feeling a bit disappointed in my heart. Isn't this the most popular bar around? It looks like it's nothing special after all. Lin Zixian waved over the waiter to order drinks. The crowd will pick up in a bit. It'll get so crowded you'll feel like you're running out of oxygen. While we were looking through the drink menu, a sudden commotion broke out nearby. I curiously looked over following the noise. Quite a few people in the bar were looking toward the entrance. There was Gu Qinghan with a cold expression, glancing at Chu Lingxiao, who was beside her. What are you following me for? Chu Lingxiao flashed a sweet, calm smile. Auntie Gu, let's just get along. Can't we just play along while we're outside? Gu Qinghan looked down at him coldly. A flash of cunningness crossed Chu Lingxiao's eyes. Qinghan actually were the same type of person. The light inside the bar was extremely dim, and people were constantly moving around. In the crowd, I only spotted a tall figure in a blazer, accompanied by a guy in a white shirt. Someone specially came over to greet them warmly, guiding them into the exclusive elevator. I was mindlessly scrolling on my screen, and right at the moment the elevator doors were about to close, my gaze just happened to pierce through the crowd, landing straight inside the elevator. The people blocking the way in the middle dispersed out of nowhere. It all felt like destiny. Through the dim lighting of the bar, I saw Gu Qinghan wearing a casual blazer, with that delicate-looking guy standing right by her side. King Han had one hand stuffed in her pocket, while casually holding her phone with the other. The bangs on her forehead covered her long eyelashes. She lowered her head slightly, her gaze staying glued to her phone screen. Not knowing what Chu Lingxiao had said to her, she turned her head slightly to look at him, forcing a faint smile on her face. Then she raised her hand to check her wristwatch. The two of them looked so dazzling standing together. Until the elevator doors slowly shut, I stared at the reflection on the silver doors, which showed my own slightly red eyes. Little Chen, Mu Yang gently tugged my hand. What have you been staring at over there? Did you run into someone you know? I suddenly snapped out of it, panicking as I shook my head. No. Looking at the wide variety of drinks on the screen, I casually handed the tablet over to Mu Yang. You should pick instead. I'll just have whatever you're having. Shen Xing Chuan reached out to touch my forehead. Little Chen, what's wrong with you? Didn't you excitedly say just now that you wanted to order every single drink on the menu? Why the sudden loss of interest? I lowered my eyes listlessly, gripping the clear glass cup in my hand. Inside was the warm water Chao Shuyue had poured for me. I muttered to myself in a downcast voice. My feelings don't matter anyway. My voice was instantly drowned out by the heavy metal music. Right at that moment, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a text message from Chu Lingxiao. Ever since we added each other last time, we hadn't really chatted at all. Have you and Gu Qinghan broken up? My thumb pressed hard on the chat box. I originally wanted to reply with, we broke up. But the more I thought about it, the more aggrieved I felt. Why should I have to answer him so obediently? The moment he comes asking, he was clearly the one who added me first, and he never even said hi after adding me. Now he suddenly comes out of nowhere asking this. What's up with this incredibly condescending tone? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and my breathing couldn't help but heavy up a bit. My chest was heaving violently, staring dead at that message. I angrily and forcefully typed out a line of text. We haven't. What are you going to do about it? Just 1 second after the message was sent, I instantly felt a wave of regret. Biting my lip, I wanted to unsend it right away, my fingertips trembling slightly out of sheer anxiety. But I accidentally tapped the wrong button. The friends around me were all stunned. Xiao Shuyue was the first to stand up, trying to take the phone out of my hand. I gripped the phone tightly and just wouldn't let go, and even pressed the power button to turn it off. Mu Yang wrapped an arm around my shoulder. What on earth happened? Why are you throwing such a huge tantrum? I accidentally tapped delete instead of unsend. Holding my phone, I collapsed into Mu Yang's arms. It's fine, it's fine. What kind of message were you trying to unsend just now? I told them everything, word for word, about seeing Gu Qinghan at the bar and how Chu Lingxiao sent a text to provoke me. Mu Yang immediately stood up for me to call out the unfairness. What kind of nonsense is this? The two of them really have the nerve to hang out together. I picked up the glass cup on the table, pulled out a straw to put inside, took a sip of water and kept it in my mouth. Took a sip of water and held it in his mouth. Then what should I do now? I just text him back saying we haven't broken up. If Gu Qinghan sees it, won't that be way too embarrassing for me? What if she comes over to confront me? Shen Qingchuan asked me seriously. Then you and Gu Qinghan right now. Is it considered that you've explicitly broken up? Has either of you officially brought up a breakup? I forcefully bit down on the plastic straw and took a massive gulp of water. After swallowing it, I said in a muffled voice, neither of us brought it up. But we both actually know very well in our hearts that it's already no different from a breakup. Lin Zixian slapped his thigh. I think I get it now. You guys felt the feelings fading, so you started to slowly drift away from each other. This counts as a mutual ghosting breakup. Am I right? I nodded helplessly. Lin Zixian leaned on Chao Shuyue's shoulder. A gossip-loving smile plastered on his face. This thing actually isn't hard to solve. You told Chu Lingxiao you haven't broken up, and literally speaking, that's not wrong. After all, you guys really haven't officially brought it up. Couples fighting and going through a silent treatment phase. Isn't that pretty much what you guys are doing right now? Shen Qingchuan chimed in from the side, nodding repeatedly. Exactly. Lin Zixian's analysis makes perfect sense. If Gu Qinghan really runs over to ask you, you can just confidently say you haven't broken up. Xiao Shuyue looked at the three of us, took my almost empty cup, and added another half cup of warm water for me. There's no need to make it so complicated. A good ex should act like they're dead, Xiao Shuyue said in a flat tone. Just block and delete Chu Lingxiao right away. And if Gu Qinghan looks for you, just ignore her too. Now that is what you call a real breakup. Mu Yang couldn't help but swallow his saliva, staring straight at Chao Shuyue. Shuyue, I highly suspect that behind our backs, you've secretly been in a relationship before. Shen Qingchuan also nodded forcefully along with him. How do you know all this so well? Lin Zixian looked at Chao Shuyue. Hurry up and confess honestly. I also raised my hand in agreement. I also really suspect Chao Shuyue. Xiao Shuyue looked at me, the main culprit. Isn't this all your fault? Every time you came to my house to do homework, you insisted on playing those melodramatic dramas on the side, while pestering me to tutor you. After watching so many shows, naturally I learned all the tropes. I shrunk my neck guiltily. Okay. I usually forgot about those shows right after watching them. I didn't expect you to actually remember them so clearly. Not long after, the drinks we ordered were served. Looking at the pretty drinks in the glasses, the troubles in my mind were instantly thrown out the window. Meanwhile, inside luxury VIP booth 1002, Gu Qinghan sat upright right in the center of the sofa. She exuded a powerful aura all over, making her exceptionally eye-catching. In this dim and noisy space, Chu Lingxiao quietly followed her inside. Gu Qinghan didn't give any response to this. In this extremely lively venue, the surrounding unfamiliar faces were countless. Everyone was just putting on a show. Chu Lingxiao sat quietly in the corner, deliberately keeping his distance from Gu Qinghan. His phone screen suddenly lit up. He looked down at it, and the message I had just replied with came into view. The corners of his mouth curled up unconsciously, revealing a smug smile. Then holding his phone, he stood up and quickly walked out of the booth to make a call. Hey, Mu Chen. Just as Gu Qinghan was about to pick up her glass, she faintly heard my name. Her movement instantly froze midair, and her deep dark eyes raised slightly, her gaze locking onto his departing back. Until the booth door slowly closed. Only then did she set down her glass, standing straight up to follow him out. On the other side, at the open tables, Cao Shuyue saw me finish half a glass in one go, and couldn't help but frown in worry. Even though this drink's alcohol content isn't very high, your tolerance is usually pretty bad. You should still drink a little less. Holding up the glass in my hand, I shouted back, swaying my head. It's exactly because I rarely drink normally that I need to drink a bit more today. Mu Yang also raised his glass, clinking it with mine as he smiled. All right. It's Little Chen's first time partying at a bar, so just cut him some slack. Even if he really gets wasted, aren't we all here to take care of him? But this is already his third glass, Cao Shuyue said helplessly, while pushing a fruit platter in front of me. Eat some fruit to sober up. I tilted my head and took another huge gulp. Seeing that only ice cubes were left in the glass, I held onto the table and stood up, my footsteps already starting to feel a bit unsteady. I need to go to the restroom. Cao Shuyue quickly reached out to support me. Can you make it alone? Let me walk you over. I nodded obediently, giving him a big thumbs up. You're such a great guy. Looking at my flushed cheeks, Cao Shuyue sighed and helped me walk forward. There was a long line at the restroom entrance. Cao Shuyue used all his strength to support me. But even so, I kept leaning limply against him. Why is the line still taking so long? I muttered anxiously. Shuyue. Anxious, I grabbed Cao Shuyue, trying to rush forward. I really can't hold it anymore. Cao Shuyue hurriedly pulled me back firmly. All right. Just endure it a little longer. It's almost your turn. Chu Lingxiao, who had just come out of the restroom, spotted Gu Qinghan waiting outside at first glance. Before he could even open his mouth to speak, from the end of the hallway came Shuyue. I called out Cao Shuyue's name drunkenly. Gu Qinghan and Chu Lingxiao turned their heads at the same time. Seeing me in this state, a trace of surprise flashed through Chu Lingxiao's eyes. Gu Qinghan's body, which had been leaning against the wall, instantly stiffened and straightened up. Her gaze first landed on Cao Shuyue's hand supporting me, and then fixed tightly onto my flushed face. Cao Shuyue naturally noticed Gu Qinghan too, his footsteps pausing slightly. I clutched Cao Shuyue's sleeve tightly, using the alcohol to act spoiled and complain. Are you doing this on purpose? Just because I had a few extra drinks today? You're just going to stand by and watch me suffer like this. Gu Qinghan snapped her head away, trying to stop looking at this eyesore of a scene. But in the next split second, her gaze uncontrollably locked back onto us. A wave of irritation couldn't help but rise in her heart. Coming out late at night to get completely wasted, and even getting all touchy with another guy? Does he really not know what danger means? Gu Qinghan forcefully suppressed the turmoil in her heart. She originally wanted to turn around and head straight back to the VIP booth, but her gaze seemed rooted, completely unable to move away from me. Cao Shuyue looked down at his clothes that I had crumpled, let out a helpless sigh, and firmly propped up my swaying body. Stop messing around. Hurry up and go inside. I gave an obedient "oh," holding onto the wall as I stumbled inside. Cao Shuyue turned his head back to look at the hallway. Gu Qinghan was already nowhere to be seen. Chu Lingxiao stood there alone, giving him a meaningful look. Only the elderly and I are left at home. Today is my first day on this part-time job, and I haven't even gotten my pay yet. I came out of the restroom, swaying as I held onto the wall. The moment I showed my face, someone grabbed my wrist out of nowhere and pulled me into the adjacent stairwell. I want to take the elevator. I threw a tantrum, refusing to move my feet, leaning my body backward. No stairs. Whenever I appeared in front of her before, I was always wearing casual clothes. A black button-up shirt like today's was a first for her to see. My mouth kept muttering Cao Shuyue's name, which was genuinely annoying. Without saying a word, Gu Qinghan took off her coat and draped it over me, holding me up firmly. Drunk as I was smelling that familiar scent, I stopped making a fuss. Gu Qinghan gently pressed my head against her, feeling the hot breath I exhaled. Cao Shuyue immediately rushed back to the restroom and checked the time. He wanted to text Mu Yang to have him check on my situation. Just then, a notification popped up on his phone. It was from Gu Qinghan. Mu Chen is with me. A single simple sentence, without the slightest intent of reassurance. What do you want to do? Where are you? After hitting send, Cao Shuyue looked toward the nearby stairwell and hurriedly ran down the stairs. Then he received another message from Gu Qinghan. It's nothing, just asking him a few things. I'll send him back before 10 p.m. Staring at those few words, Chao Shuyue almost tripped and fell. Grabbing the handrail with one hand, he leapt down 4 steps at a time and rushed to the first floor. The crowd in the bar had doubled, and he couldn't see any sign of me at all. Outside the bar's parking lot, Uncle Lee quickly got out of the car to open the door for Gu Qinghan. Seeing the person she was supporting, he froze for a slight second. My slightly curly short hair was messy, with Gu Qinghan wrapping one arm around my waist and shielding the back of my neck with her other hand, her slender fingers pressing against the back of my head. My face was buried in her shoulder, making it impossible to see my features clearly. Uncle Lee recognized the black outerwear. That was Gu Qinghan's jacket. My clean white sneakers brushed against her pants from time to time. Gu Qinghan had always been a germaphobe. Uncle Lee had watched her grow up, and it was his first time seeing her give her clothes to someone else, let alone personally helping them into the car. As Gu Qinghan was helping me into the car, I shook my legs. I'm so hungry. Gu Qinghan was stunned for a moment, listening to my slurred, mumbled complaints. I'm hungry. Xiao Shuyue, I'm hungry. Gu Qinghan pressed her tongue against her teeth, speaking in a low, gloomy voice, then starve. She helped me into the back seat of the car and got in right after me. Uncle Lee closed the car door and returned to the driver's seat. How can you let me starve to death? Leaning against Gu Qinghan's shoulder, I was completely dazed with my eyes closed. With one hand resting behind my head, I used my other hand to pat her head. Gu Qinghan tilted her head to the side, asking helplessly, what do you want to eat? Mango crepe cake. Gu Qinghan remained silent for a moment, remembering she had ordered that for me last time. My soft, whiny voice drifted into her ears again. Chao Shuyue. Hao Shuyue. Gu Qinghan reached out to cover my mouth, looking up to instruct Uncle Lee, go to the Sindian dessert shop. My hand next to her ear suddenly pinched her earlobe. Frowning deeply, I protested with my eyes closed. We can't go to Sindian. Are you trying to get me killed? Gu Qinghan let out a faint laugh. Aren't you the one who wanted to eat it? I pouted my lips aggrievedly. I'm drunk. After saying that, I tugged at her earlobe, shaking it back and forth continuously. We can't go. Gu Qinghan only felt a wave of dizziness. She reached out to grab my hand, rescuing her own earlobe. Fine, we won't go. A drunkard saying they can't go to a dessert shop. This logic was truly baffling. Gu Qinghan didn't take it seriously. I'll destroy you. The soft pout on my face carried a vengeful tone, using quite a bit of force. Uncle Lee saw that she hadn't changed her mind, so the car kept driving toward the dessert shop. Then I started clamoring for water again. Since it was hard to feed me water while I was leaning on her, Gu Qinghan took my hand and helped me sit up straight. But I couldn't support my waist at all. If Gu Qinghan didn't hold me, I would tumble forward. She had no choice but to wrap one arm around me, while using her other hand to twist open the water bottle. She brought the water to my lips, but I reached out and blindly pushed it away, spilling quite a bit from the full bottle. Gu Qinghan looked down at herself, then raised her eyes to quietly look at me, her gaze full of scrutiny. Did you do that on purpose? Feeling guilty, I lowered my head, squinting my eyes slightly, as I mumbled softly, no way. If it weren't for my burning cheeks, Gu Qinghan would really suspect I was doing it on purpose. She used a tissue to casually wipe her black pants, which left a water stain. I held onto her arm, opening my mouth to bite the bottle rim for a sip. Gu Qinghan threw away the tissue, propped up my chin and slowly tilted the water bottle. The fresh water slowly flowed into my mouth. Gu Qinghan had never served anyone like this in her entire life, even having to personally feed someone water. After a short while, I drank most of the bottle, and gradually stopped drinking. Gu Qinghan quickly took the water bottle away, stopping without even saying a word. She was a bit flustered, trying to pick up the bottle cap to screw it tight. Just as she aligned it with the opening, she felt a stream of fluid trickling down. My chin was pressed against her arm, and drool was sliding right down it. Forcing herself to endure the discomfort on her arm, she quickly screwed the bottle cap tight and tossed the water bottle aside. She pulled out several tissues and gently wiped the corners of my mouth. I tilted my head up with the motion. Gu Qinghan saw my face clearly. She stared at my face for a moment, took a tissue to wipe her hands, and her gaze landed on my collar. My shirt, with 2 buttons undone, had accidentally gotten wet. Under the reflection of the warm yellow car light, my raspy voice sounded. Gu Qinghan's eyelashes trembled slightly, her deep eyes looking toward me. Those eyes looked like a vortex. I could suck a person deep inside. Scared, I shrunk back a bit. She noticed my subtle movement, and a soft chuckle escaped her throat, echoing in the quiet car interior. Hiding from me, Gu Qinghan didn't touch me, leaning her body backward instead. Her dark eyes shifted slightly, giving me a sideways glance. Drunk like this, and you still know to hide from me. Right after that was another low laugh, carrying a trace of faint self-deprecation. The car slowly came to a stop. Uncle Lee ran over to open the car door, and Gu Qinghan was the first to get out. With her arm propped on the edge of the car door, she looked at me inside the car, still not coming down. Hearing Gu Qinghan's voice, I subconsciously shrunk back again. Gu Qinghan leaned into the car, grabbed my arm, and pulled me out while holding my shoulder. She picked up the fallen jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. We walked into the Sindian dessert shop, found a good spot, and sat down. Gu Qinghan supported me all the way, even deliberately choosing a corner. The waiter came over with the menu. She only ordered a mango crepe cake, thought about it, and added, pour a cup of warm water too. She looked down at me, leaning against her. It seemed that after calling her name, I stopped throwing a fit. She lightly patted my shoulder and called out Mu Chen. Seeing that I didn't give any response, she leaned a bit closer. Mu Chen, as if thinking of something, Gu Qinghan curled her lips into a faint smile, leaning to my ear to test me Chen Chen. I nodded obediently and let out a muffled hum in response. The waiter brought over the warm water. Gu Qinghan reached out to take it, wanting to feed it to me. I shook my head, not wanting to drink, so she placed it back on the table. There weren't many customers at the dessert shop's front counter right now. Two girls were chatting in low voices. The more I look, the more it looks like him. I think so too. He seems to be drunk. Is that his girlfriend? She's been supporting him the whole way here. Should we tell the store manager? Gu Qinghan looked at me and asked, do you know who I am? I pouted my lips aggrievedly, answering her in a slurred voice, just that one. Which one exactly? Say the name. The mango crepe cake was served. Gu Qinghan picked up a small piece and brought it to my lips. Just as I opened my mouth wanting to eat the cake, she pulled it away. Gu Qinghan raised the fork slightly, coaxing me with ultimate patience. Which one? Say it and I'll let you eat. I looked at her a bit blankly, raising my hand to poke her cheek, and mumbled her name, Gu Qinghan. Then I lowered my head again, muttering softly to myself, except for her, I don't care about anyone else. The affectionate ice queen, Gu Qinghan, heard the name clearly, but didn't catch the words that followed. She leaned in closer and asked softly, what did you say? My hand slid down weakly, and my body couldn't stop sinking downward. Gu Qinghan quickly held me steady. Fine, as long as you know who I am. Gu Qinghan nodded slightly, and then opened her mouth to interrogate me further. Why did you delete my contact info anyway? I snapped my head up, suddenly pushed her away with force, and strained my voice to shout loudly. Haven't we already broken up? What do you even mean by asking that? My voice grew louder, and I stood right up from the seat, pointing at Gu Qinghan and yelling, you big liar. You, Chen Chen. Gu Qinghan stood up with me. But before her hand could touch me, a woman wearing an apron rushed over and grabbed my arm in one swift motion. Gu Qinghan glanced at the uniform. Everyone else had a name tag, except for this woman. Looking at her hand holding onto me tightly, Gu Qinghan let out a cold laugh. Another one who only cares about looks. My older sister, Mu Yulu, had heard that I got drunk and was eating cake over here. She was originally a bit skeptical, but coming out to see me being bullied, she quickly shielded me by standing in front of me. She sized up Gu Qinghan and thought to herself that this person didn't look like a good person. She opened her mouth to demand angrily, what did you do to him to get him wasted like this? I got him wasted, Gu Qinghan laughed out of sheer anger. How did I become the one who forced him to drink? Do I look like the type to do that? Gu Qinghan didn't know her identity, and with a flame of anger building up in her heart, she continued speaking with a sarcastic tone. You should go ask the other culprit, who brought him to a bar late at night and let him drink this much alcohol. Qiao Shuyue. Mu Yulu helped me sit down, pulling out her phone to send a message. Hearing this name, Gu Qinghan felt a sharp sting in her heart. She opened her mouth, mocking jealously. So you guys all actually know each other? She looked over at me, clutching the pillow. I had already fallen fast asleep. She thought to herself bitterly, and you still say you like me. Maybe you're just keeping a bunch of backups. Without waiting for Mu Yulu to make the call, she went straight over to pull me up, leading me toward the door. Chen Chen Mu Yulu hurriedly chased after us. Just as she ran out of the dessert shop, she saw us getting into the car. At that moment, the call went through. While chasing after the car, Mu Yulu asked who the person next to Chen Chen was. Did he get a girlfriend? The ex-girlfriend said she'd send him back before 10 p.m. I'm currently rushing to his house right now. Mu Yulu slowed her pace, glanced at the car driving away, and immediately got into her own car to give chase. Gu Qinghan looked at the car behind them and told Uncle Lee to speed up to shake it off. There was no way she would hand me over. Compared to that strange woman, Qiao Shuyue seemed a bit more reliable. From my fragmented words, Gu Qinghan managed to fish out my floor number and smoothly entered the residential building's elevator. There was only one unit on this floor. You needed to swipe a card to take the elevator up. Gu Qinghan glanced at me. Did you bring your elevator card? Without waiting for her to answer, I reached out to rummage through my pants pocket. Hey, Gu Qinghan hurriedly held down my hand, reminding me softly in my ear, this isn't your bathroom card. I broke free from her restraint and pulled the card out of my pocket. Gu Qinghan let out a sigh of relief, her tone carrying a hint of praise. Pretty smart. Standing in the exclusive private hallway, there was another passcode lock on the door. Gu Qinghan tilted her head to look at me, complaining with some helplessness, sending you home is like clearing a video game stage. She fell into a brief silence, the scene of shopping flashing in her mind. As long as you're happy. With a beep, the passcode lock opened. Gu Qinghan helped me through the door, and the sensor lights silently dimmed down. In the dim light, emotion surged in Gu Qinghan's eyes. The passcode was indeed her birthday. Perhaps because of her father's strictness, this was also her first time knowing that a passcode could be set to a child's birthday. She helped me into the house. The house appeared somewhat dim, but the large items could be seen clearly. There was a whole wall of wide French windows, and outside was a brightly lit cityscape. Gu Qinghan scanned the surroundings. There was a row of switches by the door, and she pressed all of them down. With a few crisp clicks, the house instantly lit up. The house was decorated warmly and spaciously, with the main color tone being a warm yellow. Her fingertips paused on the switch. She lowered her eyes to take a closer look. The switch was adorned with star stickers. The edges of the stickers were a bit worn, obviously having been stuck there for a long time. In her mind, the image of me, absent-mindedly picking at the stickers, instantly surfaced. She looked down at the floor. The entryway mat was also star-patterned. She supported me as we walked inside, her gaze landing next to the French windows. The cardboard boxes were full of old toys. There was a photo frame placed on the low cabinet. In the photo, my parents were in the back, and in the middle, Grandma was holding me. There were 4 rooms in total. Gu Qinghan recognized at a glance that the one with the star ornaments hanging was my room. She opened the bedroom door. The room was different from what she had imagined. In her impression, I loved buying useless items, so she thought the room would be very flashy. In reality, it was exceptionally neat and tidy. The overall tone was a blue and white theme, with almost no clutter at all. A piano and an easel stood by the window, and there wasn't even a stool in front of the piano. Gu Qinghan thought to herself, he must have just had a 3-minute passion for it, buying it and then stopping playing after a few days. She helped me onto the bed to lie down, helped me take off my shoes, and carefully tucked me in with the blanket. Then she stood up and turned off the bedroom light. By the light filtering through the crack in the door, she looked at my fast asleep face. She hadn't managed to get anything clear out of me today. She pulled over the notepad on the desk, casually tore off a sheet, and wrote a line of words in a cursive flowing script. Before leaving the room, she turned off all the lights in the house, finally closing the bedroom door gently. Everything returned to silence once again. Finals are right around the corner, why aren't you focusing on studying? Seeing Mu Yang scrolling through videos, I reminded him while solving questions. As long as I pass, it's fine anyway, Mu Yang said with an air of complete unconcern. He and I were sitting in the very back row. This class was an astronomy elective. We listened with great interest during the first class, but barely paid attention after that, becoming regulars in the back row. Chen, where do you plan to go for summer vacation? Mu Yang turned his head to ask me. I shook my head gently. I don't know. During last year's summer vacation, having found out that Gu Qinghan went to the Ruan Corporation, I lied to my parents saying I was hanging out with friends, and secretly followed her all the way there. The result was an ultimate embarrassment over there. For this long summer vacation, I decided to go somewhere I actually wanted to go. Then I'll ask in the group chat. Mu Yang closed the video app. I earnestly worked on my practice questions, mulling over in my mind that I still needed to keep my academic grades up. Xiao Shuyue is going to work a part-time job. Mu Yang shook his head and sighed. He's really grinding too hard. Shenting Chuan was staying at school for training, while Lin Zixian was preparing to go abroad. I paused my pen and thought for a moment. I heard from my grandma that she's going to Beijing in July. If nothing else comes up, I'll probably accompany her. Going to Beijing is quite a long trip. What is she going there for? Mu Yang casually pressed for details. I frowned slightly, opening my mouth to explain to him my grandma was adopted. Later, she married my grandpa and cut ties with the adoptive family, moving to Beijing to live. I heard my mom mention it before. Grandma has an older brother in Beijing. It seems he fell ill, so grandma wants to visit him. That's so dramatic. Your grandma was a rich heiress who fell for a poor guy and cut ties with her family. I couldn't help but chuckle, bantering with him half-jokingly. According to my mom, that family was indeed wealthy, but it has nothing to do with us. She was just adopted to begin with, and they cut ties long ago. Could we really expect to inherit a fortune? This was just a minor interlude. After chatting about it, we completely forgot it. A few nights before the finals, I overheard my mom making a phone call. Grandma said she was about to set off for Beijing. I put down my warm milk, hurriedly taking over the phone. Grandma, can you wait a few more days? Wait until I finish my exams and I'll go with you. My mom stood nearby, smiling as she said to the other end of the line, Mom, why don't you wait a few more days? With him accompanying you the whole way, we can rest easier too. I'm going to Beijing this time, and probably won't be back for a while. It'll be very boring for him to follow me around. I let out a helpless smile. Beijing has plenty of fun things. Worst comes to worst, I can just play on my phone. Grandma, let me go with you. Staying in Beijing for the summer is boring anyway. Everyone else had things to keep them busy, and Grandma probably didn't want to be lonely either. Hearing me say this, she agreed. Holding my empty glass, I followed behind my mother, inquiring about that family in Beijing. Mom, when I was talking to Mu Yang the other day, he said Grandma was a rich heiress. Is that true? Tell me about it. My mom sat on the study sofa, holding a book in her hand, and let out a gentle laugh. I only heard about it from your dad. Supposedly, the one who adopted Grandma was a billionaire, and they only adopted her due to public relations pressure. Grandma didn't have a good life there. Later, when she met your grandpa, that family didn't approve, so Grandma cut ties with them. Dad wasn't born yet back then, right? Did Grandma tell Dad herself? I leaned in curiously, looking like I was eager for some gossip. You can find it online, but it's all surface level information. No one knows what actually happened back then. Just don't bring it up in front of Grandma. I nodded obediently. Don't worry, I won't talk out of turn. Although I promised with my mouth. My heart was filled with curiosity. Returning to my own room, I turned on the computer on the desk and typed in my grandma's name, Gu Qingzi. Decades had passed since the events, and there were very few relevant reports online. But I still managed to find some old news. Grandma's biological parents were wealthy merchants who went bankrupt after getting involved in a financial scandal, leaving behind only the underage grandma. Grandma's original name was Lan Qingzi, and after being adopted by the chairman of Keisheng, she changed her last name to Gu. Later on, she cut ties and followed Grandpa to Beicheng. Thinking about the brother Grandma was going to visit, my fingers tapped on the keyboard, searching for relevant information, but I couldn't find any news about him. I let go of the mouse, casually shifting my gaze, and saw the white sticky note on the desk. There were a few words left on it. Big liar. The handwriting looked completely disorganized, yet it carried a sense of reckless wildness. Looking at it made me feel quite uncomfortable. How did I end up becoming a liar? The sticky note had been sitting on the desk for the past few days. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't figure it out. Hao Shu Yue told me before that on the day I got wasted, it was Gu Qinghan who brought me back. But I seriously couldn't remember what happened in between. According to my older sister Mu Yulu, I even went to the Sindian dessert shop. I had no idea why she took me there, especially since my sister ran right into us. It took me days to explain to her that we were just college classmates. On the final day of the final exams, I rushed to the exam hall early. The sun outside was blazing hot, and since I found holding an umbrella too troublesome, I threw on a sun protection jacket and put on a wide-brimmed hat to block most of my face. My phone screen lit up. Muyang sent a video, and the thumbnail featured an incredibly gorgeous shot of the voice acting department goddess. I quickly typed a reply, I'm almost at the exam hall. I'll watch it after the exam. Watching it early will mess up my performance. I walked with my head down, clutching my stationery bag under my arm, typing on my phone with both hands. Passing by a milk tea shop, I saw a massive crowd inside, so I dismissed the thought of buying an iced drink. While I was focusing on replying to the message, someone suddenly rushed out from the side, bumping into me and making me stumble back a few steps. An icy sensation hit me, and the scent of milk tea wafted into my nose. Looking down to check, milk tea was dripping all over my pants and shoes. Classmate, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. That girl's face flushed bright red as she apologized profusely. I caught sight of the steps behind her, guessing she must have slipped and fallen. It's fine. You didn't do it on purpose anyway. I'll just wash it when I get back. I waved my hand generously, secretly glad that I wore the sun protection jacket. Right at that moment, a slender arm reached out holding a phone. Your phone. The voice was deep and casual. I didn't even need to turn my head to know it was Gu Qinghan. Ah, the goddess Yuxi is so beautiful. The sound of fans screeching from the video exploded, making my brain buzz instantly. My hand shook as I reached for the phone, and my pencil case fell with a thud onto my shoe, rolling straight into the spilled milk tea puddle. I couldn't even care less about picking it up, frantically trying to press the mute button, not even noticing that I touched her hand. But in my panic, I pressed the wrong button, and the volume blasted even louder. The fan screaming pierced right into my ears. This was an ultimate nightmare. My face turned completely red as I snatched the phone away and turned it off. If I knew it was a sketchy video, I never should have opened it. To think it played out loud in public while in Gu Qinghan's hands, the girl who spilled the milk tea blushed even harder, stuttering out, let me buy you a milk tea to make up for it. Clutching my black screen phone, I let out a weak sigh. Just go. If you don't leave now, I'm gonna look for a hole to crawl into. The girl thanked me repeatedly, pulled her companion along, and quickly fled. With my head hanging low, I picked up the filthy pencil case, gripping my phone in one hand, as I silently turned around to walk away. Life is both long and short, and there will always be embarrassing moments. Suddenly, the back collar of my clothes was grabbed, halting my steps. The hood of my sun protection jacket fell back. Gu Qinghan's lazy chuckle made me wish I could vanish on the spot. Who knew you had such unique tastes? Her teasing words came through, stabbing like a needle into my heart. I gritted my teeth hard. None of your business. Let go of me. I helped you pick up your phone and got embarrassed along with you. Yet you don't even say thank you. I turned around to glare at her fiercely. You have the nerve to say that. You're the one who tapped it open. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I brushed the pencil case in my hand against her, smearing milk tea onto her black outfit. But black didn't show stains at all, making me feel like my punch had landed on thin air. Childish. Gu Qinghan glanced at the stain and evaluated it with total indifference. Evaluating it with complete indifference. Leaning her body down slightly, she quietly locked her eyes on me. You watch inappropriate stuff yourself, yet you blame it on me. My face flushed with embarrassment, and I bit my lip loudly, fire backing at her. Who watches that every day, Gu Qing? Gu Qinghan let out an "oh" and added another line, so you watch it every other day, then? I gritted my teeth and demanded loudly, what do you mean by that? The things you did? Aren't you aware of them yourself? Gu Qinghan straightened her posture, shoved her hands into her pockets, and walked forward. If you don't move, you'll be late. I followed closely behind her, muttering in a low voice, what did I even do wrong? If I'm a liar, then you're a toxic girl. I closed the distance by a few steps, staring straight at her and saying, that night I was with my friends. You were the one who randomly took me away. Don't think I completely blacked out. No, what? Gu Qinghan strode forward, not even giving me a single glance. You drank so much you forgot your own name. Do you really trust Chao Shuyue that much, or do you just not care at all? Or maybe you were looking forward to something? You sure have plenty of white knights around you. She let out a cold sneer. I froze on the spot, completely at a loss. By the time I snapped out of it and wanted to press for answers, I stopped my steps. Anyway, it had nothing to do with her, so why bother asking so clearly? Could it be that I still had to explain things to her? Gu Qinghan and I were supposed to ignore each other to begin with. Is it that hard to call my name? I gave up the struggle, my lips trembling slightly as I spoke Gu Qinghan. How surprising. To think you are actually this kind of person. A wave of bitterness welled up in my eyes, leaving nothing but desolation in my heart. The woman I loved for 4 years was actually completely heartless to me. This long-running, unrequited love turned out to be utterly absurd. A deep affection buried in my heart had become an absolute joke. Gu Qinghan's voice turned heavy, carrying a hint of tenseness. What kind of person am I? You have the nerve to ask me. You are selfish and heartless. When have you ever cared whether I lived or died? Muchen, think about the great deeds you've done. Is it your turn to scold me? Right, I am indeed not worthy. We cut ties a long time ago anyway. A flame of anger was always suppressed in my heart. I had a crush on her for 3 years before confessing, and a relationship obtained so easily was expectedly treated like dirt. Gu Qinghan was always high and mighty, while I humbly tried to please her, like a brainless sidekick. Seeing other men getting close to her, I didn't even dare to question her, and she couldn't even be bothered to explain. I shook my head helplessly, my eyes gradually turning red as I stared at Gu Qinghan with tears in my eyes. What exactly did I do wrong? She stared right back at me, demanding in a sharp voice, what did you do wrong? You and Chao Shuyue were drinking until you were dead drunk. Do you dare to swear that the two of you are absolutely innocent? Am I not allowed to make friends? Do I absolutely have to revolve around you? I slammed my phone down in rage. Gu Qinghan, in your eyes, I'm just an object. Whenever you give a casual handout, I'm expected to thank you for your royal grace. Am I lower than dirt in your heart? Stop playing the victim. In your heart, only someone who serves you like a maid like Chao Shuyue does counts as being sincere, right? I indeed cannot do that. Gu Qinghan's eyes flickered, and our gazes collided. At this very moment, the relationship had completely reached its end. This time, it was truly over. Don't bring up Chao Shuyue. My voice was incredibly weak, as if it would scatter with a single gust of wind. I turned my face away, not wanting to see her like this. The cool breeze brushed past my cheeks, carrying waves of chilliness. Gu Qinghan clenched her fingers tightly, digging into her own skin and leaving deep red marks. What, I'm not even worthy of mentioning her? Her tone grew aggressive. Every time you threw a tantrum, didn't I always coax you? Whenever you made a scene out of nothing, which time did I ever give you the cold shoulder? Gu Qinghan could never figure it out. Who would want to date a puppet? You say you love me with your mouth, but you're the one secretly flirting and confessing to others behind my back. Can you stop being such a giant infant, Muchen? You think you're so amazing? Playing people for fools, right? My chest heaved violently, inhaling the scorching air. I lowered my eyes, my voice raspy as I spoke Gu Qinghan. Let's break up. The strength in her hands pulled me up, her bloodshot eyes desperately holding back tears and emotions, her face flushing completely red. Gu Qinghan was instantly left speechless. It seemed saying anything was useless now. My tears rolled down. So, from now on, whoever I drink with, or whoever I flirt with has absolutely nothing to do with you. You ask why I keep in touch with Chao Shuyue. We are childhood friends. If you had put even a shred of effort into trying to understand, you would know we are completely innocent. If something were really going on, it never would have been your turn. You blame me for flirting with others. But what about you? When I was sick and begged you to stay with me, you said you were busy. Yet when I came back from the hospital, I saw you casually chatting with Chu Lingxiao. His hand even touched you. You clearly saw me, but you were just too lazy to explain, not saying a single word. Muchen, that day, what's the use of explaining now? You did it on purpose to upset me, getting cozy with another man right in front of me. You didn't care about me at all. Were you just too lazy to speak? Or did you think I wasn't worthy? I asked you out to the amusement park, waiting for 2 hours under the blazing sun, getting my legs covered in mosquito bites. You didn't pick up calls or reply to messages, yet I was still foolishly worried about you. In the end, you came back in a car, and when I blocked the car, wanting an explanation, do you still remember what you said? I squeezed out a bitter smile. You said, Muchen, aren't you annoying? Gu Qinghan closed her eyes tightly, her brows furrowed into a deep knot. Muchen, that day actually save it. No matter what trash excuse it is, you no longer have the right to say it. If you really cared about me, you should have explained long ago. Why fake this deep affection now? So you want to draw a clear line with me? Gu Qinghan let out a cold snort, just for Chao Shuyue. I completely lost the energy to waste words on her. Whatever floats your boat. If we run into each other in the future, just act like we're strangers. Gu Qinghan gritted her teeth, repeating in a low voice, strangers? Gu Qinghan was probably thinking that it was just her competitiveness acting up, not wanting to lose to Chao Shuyue, that's all. She was used to being pampered like a princess. She would never be like Chao Shuyue, taking care of someone down to the smallest detail, always having an umbrella and tissues ready. A rich young lady like her couldn't pull that off. I was just a mere mortal. So how could she ever bow her head for me? Let me ask you something. Gu Qinghan stared dead at me. After breaking up with me, will you get together with Chao Shuyue? I looked into her eyes. Originally, I wanted to deny it straight up even if I got with Lin Zixian. It still wouldn't be Chao Shuyue's turn. But looking at her icy eyes, I let out a cold laugh. Even if I marry her and have kids with her, it's none of your business. You don't have the right anymore. Just like I have no right to question your absolute BS with Chu Lingxiao. Gu Qinghan pressed her red lips tight, her back teeth grinding hard. Very well. You've even thought about having kids together, yet you still claim you're just friends. Ah Chen. Chao Shuyue sprinted over toward me, pulling me behind her in one swift motion, completely blocking Gu Qinghan and shielding me from her probing gaze. Gu Qinghan let out a contemptuous snort, scorn flashing in her eyes. So your backup has arrived. Since you've broken up, please have some self-respect, Miss Gu. Chao Shuyue refused to back down. Without your toxic meddling, he will live a much more comfortable life. Gu Qinghan watched us walk away, her gaze shifting sideways to the ground. The shattered phone screen lay quietly among the fallen leaves, exuding a sense of bleakness. Gu Qingzi felt bad that I had just finished my exams, so she packed my luggage for me in advance and took me to her house to stay over. Gu Qingji asked lovingly, Ah Chen, did the exams go badly? I immediately forced a smile. How is that possible? A mere minor exam can't stump a genius like me. I hugged her tightly. Grandma Gu, is your brother easy to get along with? Visiting his house so abruptly like this? What if it makes him unhappy? Should we just stay at a hotel instead? I came back this time specifically to see him. He's just stubborn. He's been sick for so long, yet he didn't let a single word slip out. He's living alone with just a stray dog in such a huge empty house. None of his kids are showing their faces. How can none of them come to check on him? What a bunch of heartless people. I heard he donated his inheritance. Why is he locking himself away at home? I shot back huffily. I hate you the most. Stop making excuses. Gu Qingji went back to her room with a smile, while I lay down holding a pillow. On the third day, as soon as Gu Qingzi and I got off the plane, two men in suits came to greet us. Are you Ms. Gu Qingzi? Gu Qingzi nodded slightly, and the two men took over all our luggage, escorting us all the way to Tiandi Huafu. I had some impression of this place in my mind. This was Beijing's top luxury residential estate, consistently ranking #1 all year round. Grandma Gu, you must really care about Grandpa Gu. I couldn't help but marvel. Moving out from a luxury mansion like this to live in a regular apartment in Beijing, the contrast must have been massive. Chen Gu Qingzi's voice was soft. A house isn't better just because it's more spacious. We pushed the door and went inside. An old man was sitting in a wheelchair, with a big yellow dog curled up at his feet. I was startled at first. Such a prominent family didn't raise some expensive pedigree dog, but instead kept a regular Chinese rural dog. Standing beside him was an assistant with graying hair, wearing a crisp suit without a single wrinkle. He bowed slightly. Eldest miss, the flight was delayed, and they could only arrive at midnight. The maid led us inside. Old Mr. Gu, Special Assistant Liu, distinguished guests have arrived. The old man's body shook violently. Special Assistant Liu. He immediately looked toward us, a smile appearing at the corners of his eyes. Though old, his gaze was sharp as a hawk. The third young lady, Gu Qingzi, squeezed my hand tight. You're still working for the Gu family. So many years have passed, and your eyes are still as sharp as ever. However, that old gentleman didn't turn around for a long time. Gu Qingji led me forward, walking straight up to his wheelchair. Although the old man before me could only sit in a wheelchair, he still possessed an unabated aura of authority, his gaze as deep as a frozen abyss. He didn't look at Gu Qingzi, but instead locked his gaze on this young man. I obediently waited for the elder to introduce me, before greeting him, my godson Mu Chen. Though Gu Qingzi's voice was steady, it hid a slight tremor. I was slightly taken aback, subconsciously glancing at her, her hand gripping mine even tighter. Hello, Grandpa Gu. I am Mu Chen. I was worried about Grandma traveling alone, so I braced myself and tagged along. Sorry for bothering you during this time. Facing the old man with such a powerful aura, I was somewhat constrained, bowing respectfully. Only then did I properly look at his face. Mu Chen, old Mr. Gu, smiled politely, nodding his head slightly. I went into a daze for a moment, as the image of Gu Qinghan suddenly flashed through my mind. On the day we first met, I was helping the teacher register names. Just as I was about to hand them in, she appeared unhurriedly, leaning against the back door of the classroom. Her figure was tall and slender, standing against the bright light, casting her shadow over me. I turned my head to look. It was Gu Qinghan. Her voice was cold and carried a lazy tone, just like a demon's whisper. My heart instantly spun out of control as I stared at her blankly. Her exquisite and sharp brow bone, along with her pitch black eyes that looked like an abyss, hid a certain level of wild rebellion. The teacher assigned the two of us to carry books. Halfway through, I introduced myself in a low voice. My name is Mu Chen. Others would always praise it after hearing it, or easily call me Ah Chen. But she only gave a perfunctory cold reply. Long time no see. The old man's raspy voice revealed the weakness of a long illness, and it also pulled my wandering thoughts back. The personalities of this grandparent and grandchild pair were truly identical. Both carried a deep indifference in their bones, relying entirely on upbringing to maintain proper manners. Don't take it to heart with them. The younger generation is busy making money, so how could they have time to show filial piety? Gu Qingji pushed the wheelchair. Ah Chen, go have a look around. I'll chat with him for a bit. I nodded repeatedly. Okay, Grandma, Xiao Liu. Help get this young Master Mu settled in. After old Mr. Gu finished giving the instructions, he turned his head and said to Gu Qingzi, "You'll still stay in that old room, right? The things inside haven't been touched at all." I caught a glimpse of Gu Qingji's eyes turning red as she nodded silently. It seemed she still had some attachment to the Gu family after all. Gu Qingji turned her head to instruct Special Assistant Liu. Let Ah Chen stay closer to me. He's afraid of the dark and struggles to sleep in new beds. Then we'll arrange for him to stay next to the eldest Mrs. room. It happens to be right next to yours. Special Assistant Leo requested instructions in a low voice. It's just that the eldest miss returns home late, so I'm afraid she might disturb the guest. Old Mr. Gu looked over at me. I quickly shook my head and waved my hands. My sleep quality is extremely good. I can fall asleep the moment my head hits the pillow. The noise next door definitely won't wake me up. Young Master Mu, please rest assured. Special Assistant Leo smiled gently. I will instruct the eldest miss to keep her movements quiet. Thank you. I followed Special Assistant Liu upstairs. When passing by a room door, I couldn't help but take a couple extra glances. The rooms on this floor all had silver door locks installed, except that single one which was pure black. Young Master Mu, if you need anything at all, just press this button, and the servants will be at your service anytime. Special Assistant Leo pointed at the switch on the wall. I nodded and replied, got it. I'll just rest in the room, so please go ahead with your work. Don't worry about me. I'll come call you at dinner time. In the evening, the three of us had dinner in the dining room. After the meal, the two elders went to the backyard to digest their food. I tagged along for a lap, but traveling continuously was just too exhausting. Plus, playing with the dog for half the afternoon made my body feel like it was falling apart. After saying goodnight to the elders, I went straight back to my bedroom. The wardrobe was fully stocked with clothes, and there was even luxury men's skincare available. I put on the pajamas I brought with me, and my whole body smelled of refreshing soap. Once my nerves relaxed, I drifted off to sleep in no time. Downstairs, Gu Qinghan, wearing a black trench coat, strode inside carrying a white paper bag. Special Assistant Leo followed right behind. A guest has arrived at the house and is arranged to stay next door to you. The old master ordered you to keep your movements quiet, so you don't wake them up. Whatever, this guy sleeps like a log anyway, it won't matter. A few drops of cold rain clung to her brows, glistening slightly under the light, softening the sharp edge in her eyes a bit. She casually threw the bag onto the sofa and shrugged off her coat. The guest is a guy. Her posture was lazy to the extreme, and her tone was cold and indifferent, faintly laced with a bit of mockery. Do you want me to make some late-night snack? Just a bowl of noodles then. Bring it upstairs. Got it. Gu Qinghan rolled up her sleeves and went upstairs, pressing the passcode outside her door, but she wasn't in a hurry to push the door open. She glanced sideways at the crack of the door next door. Not only does he sleep like a log, but he's also seriously carefree. After pushing the door open and walking inside, she habitually locked the door from the inside. Thinking about the late-night snack being delivered in a bit, she casually unlocked the door again. Throwing her black trench coat carelessly onto the low cabinet, she reached out to turn on the ceiling light, grabbed a bath towel, and walked into the bathroom. I was woken up by a bursting urge to pee, my mind completely like mush. With my eyes half closed, I looked for the bathroom and slammed my head straight into the wall, which finally woke me up a bit. Realizing this wasn't in my own house, I rushed out in a desperate hurry, remembering there was a bathroom just around the corner. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the lights downstairs were on. Do rich families just never turn off their lights at night? I didn't have time to dig into it, groggily navigating my way through the dark. I didn't notice at all that, just 2 steps after I stepped out, the open door behind me was slammed shut by a draft, leaving not a single shred of light. I sat on the toilet swaying, almost toppling over completely. Dragging my slippers as I walked back, I spotted a half-open door filtering some light, so I reached straight for the doorknob and slipped inside. I casually switched off the main light and crashed straight onto the sofa. A screen in the distance was still emitting a faint glow. I vaguely felt something was wrong, but I was so sleepy that I didn't want to get up at all. Inside the bathroom, Gu Qinghan was lowering her head to tie her bathrobe. Her movement suddenly froze, and her sharp gaze swept toward the door. A power outage. Just as this thought popped up, she cursed herself for being stupid. The bathroom light was still perfectly on. She pushed open the glass door with a slam. Special Assistant Liu, holding a wooden tray, happened to walk in on tiptoe. It's set down here. He carefully placed the bowl and chopsticks down. Gu Qinghan opened her mouth slightly, just about to question him on why he turned off the light, but Special Assistant Liu had already quickly backed out. He was also wondering why the eldest miss was sitting in the dark. Just as Gu Qinghan was about to press the switch, a muffled groan suddenly came from the sofa. Did the old man get a cat? Gu Qinghan frowned, looking toward the sofa. Thinking about a stray cat making a mess of her space, a wave of irritation rose in her heart for no reason. Her pitch-black eyes stared dead at the bulge under the blanket. That length and volume was absolutely not a cat. She raised her eyebrows slightly and coldly flattened the corners of her lips. Lightening her steps, she approached the side of the sofa in the massive bedroom. It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, leaving only the ticking sound of a wristwatch. She suddenly remembered Special Assistant Liu's words, "A guy came." She looked down at the sofa area. Only the top of a head was peeking out from the blanket, glistening under the faint glow of the screen. "A guest has arrived at the house. Arranged to stay next door to you." Special Assistant Liu's words were like a curse, looping in her mind. How did that guy, who clearly had a death wish, end up sleeping on her sofa? This disgusted her even more than a stray cat. Even if she kicked the person out right now, she would absolutely never sleep in this room tonight. The blanket was roughly flipped over, half of it sliding onto the floor, and the other half piling up at the edge of the sofa. I was completely exposed to the cold air. Before I could realize what was going on, my skin felt a sudden chill, and I subconsciously curled up my arms. Gu Qinghan looked down at me from above, casually grabbing a pillow to block her front. That familiar sense of soap drifted into my nose. "Get the hell up." Her voice was low and menacing, carrying an intense pressure. Anyone who wasn't completely dead would be scared awake by this commotion. She tightly grabbed my wrist, roughly dragging me toward the carpet. I fell hard onto the shag carpet, my brain still a little dazed. My messy bangs blocked my vision. "Get out." Her voice broke no argument, carrying the faint warmth of someone who had just bathed. I snapped wide awake instantly. "Gu Qinghan, am I dreaming?" I haphazardly brushed away the stray hair in front of my eyes. The first thing that caught my sight was a pair of straight, slender legs and a silk bathrobe that reached her knees. Moving my gaze upward was her smoothly contoured collarbone, which under the interplay of the dim light exuded a deadly temptation. Droplets of water still hung on her porcelain skin. I tilted my head up and widened my eyes, absolutely 100% positive that this was Gu Qinghan. I even pinched myself hard, even though the light was so dim right now. There was no way I could mistake this face. I gasped in shock. "How did you break in here?" Gu Qinghan also froze on the spot. Why on earth was I in her house? The harsh words I had snapped at her earlier flashed through my mind, and an indescribable irritation welled up from the bottom of my heart. "So you're the old man's guest?" She coldly grabbed my arm, forcing me to stand up straight. She never interfered with things at the old estate. Special Assistant Leo had only casually mentioned it, and she hadn't taken it to heart at all, having zero interest in this random matter. I was finally completely wide awake, staring up at her, for a moment not even knowing where to start cursing. This was officially beyond ridiculous. We had just had a massive fight and broken up, only to run into each other right here. I awkwardly turned my head away, avoiding her highly aggressive gaze. But Gu Qinghan took a step closer, stepping barefoot on the soft carpet, without making a single sound. Not until her breath was right next to me did I take a sharp step back in fright. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" "You're the one who sneaked into my room." Gu Qinghan pressed forward step by step, and my lower back slammed hard against the edge of the desk. How was I supposed to know where this place was? As if snapping out of a dream, I turned around wanting to bolt outside, but my wrist was tightly locked by Gu Qinghan. I struggled desperately a few times, only to be violently pulled into her embrace instead. I stopped making futile resistance, letting my shoulders drop in defeat, staring her down in the darkness. Gu Qinghan pressed down hard on my pulse with her thumb, calling out "Mu Chen" before falling into dead silence. After a moment, the grip she used to restrain me loosened a bit. Taking the chance, I forcefully yanked my hand back, and my elbow seemed to knock over a scalding hot object. Immediately after, a rich aroma of tonkatsu broth spread out. I whipped my head around to check. A noodle bowl had overturned on the desk, with soup spilling everywhere. Caught completely off guard, my lower back was grabbed by a dominant force. I was violently yanked forward, crashing into that familiar embrace. We were wearing the exact same scent of body wash. Gu Qinghan kept her palm locked around my waist, pulling me away to dodge the flowing broth. I caught a glimpse of her hand that was shielding behind me. It was already covered in sticky soup. "What are you still standing there for? Go turn on the light." Her tone was freezing cold. We locked eyes using the light filtering from the bathroom. Regarding this godforsaken reunion, both of us felt incredibly frustrated. The ceiling light turned on instantly, making the room as bright as day. Gu Qinghan looked around the room and asked in a cold voice, "Where are the tissues?" "This is your own house, so how should I know?" I snapped back testily. Gu Qinghan raised her eyes to examine me. I was wearing simple men's pajamas, my arms pinned stiffly against the seams of my pants. The pajama pants were loose and comfortable, revealing half of my pale calves. Her gaze was intensely penetrating, so I instinctively shrank back a couple of steps. A wicked smile played at the corner of Gu Qinghan's mouth. Back up any further, and you'll crack your head open. Go get some tissues. She slightly tilted her exquisite chin. Resigned to my fate, I turned around and found the tissue box right on the cabinet by the door. I pulled out a single sheet and handed it to her. So cheap. She snatched the tissue away. Just as I was about to grab a few more sheets, she stopped me with a cold voice. She pointed to the empty space on the other side. Move over there and stand straight. Based on what? I looked completely defensive. The floor where you're standing isn't safe to step on. Her tone was extremely dark and cold, making cold sweat break out all over my back. I swallowed hard in nervousness, warily glancing back, while shuffling over to the spot she designated. As my bare feet moved from the freezing tiles onto the soft shag carpet, I awkwardly curled up my toes and lowered my flushed eyes. Since I was roughly dragged off the sofa just now, I didn't have time to put on my shoes at all. Only now did I realize it late, hurriedly looking for my slippers to put them on. I raised my eyes to look over and saw her pulling out tissues to wipe her hands herself. I looked around the luxurious room. Are you Grandpa Gu's granddaughter? Gu Qinghan tilted her head and sneered. You haven't even figured out the background yet, you dare to make yourself at home. And you didn't even lock the bedroom door. It wasn't that I hadn't suspected her identity, but this room was as empty and cold as a guest room, without a single trace of being lived in. Even finding tissues took so much effort, making it look as if it was her first time here too. Then, I'm sorry for knocking over your late night snack. My voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. Gu Qinghan gave a cold, indifferent response, staring at me with burning eyes, seemingly waiting for my next performance. I bit my lower lip. The noodles I cooked taste awful. Done for. I looked up at the wall clock. It was already 3 a.m. How about I cook another bowl of noodles for you? I bit the bullet and suggested. She didn't say a single word, taking a step with her long legs toward me. What do you want? I backed up repeatedly in fright. She ignored me, walking straight over to pull open the custom wardrobe and taking out a brand new set of pajamas. I immediately realized she wanted to change clothes, so I turned around and ran out the door like an escape artist. Gu Qinghan stared at my back, watching the loosely shut door as she strode over. Lock it tight. I hate my bad habit of not closing doors. She certainly held a grudge. I fumbled my way into the kitchen and facing the cold high-end cookware, I stood frozen on the spot like an idiot, trying hard to recall the ingredients of that bowl of noodles. It seemed there were eggs and tomatoes. I rummaged around and found an egg and a tomato, staring dead at that sky-high priced iron pot. Although I wouldn't say I was completely spoiled and useless, my experience was limited to playing with mud as a kid. There was always a nanny cooking at home, and when the nanny wasn't around, I'd just order takeout. Saying the noodles I cooked taste awful was actually a compliment. The only time I did it was when I went to grandma's house before and learned it once from Chao Shuyue. I let out a resigned sigh. Might as well treat a dead horse as a live one. Rummaging out a glass bowl, I prepared to deal with the egg first. Imitating the chef techniques on TV, I gave it a hard tap against the rim of the bowl. Oops, I frantically steadied the bowl that almost flipped over, holding half a cracked eggshell in my hand, with egg white smeared all over it, while the shattered bits all fell into the bowl. Frustrated, I poured out this messy bowl, rinsed the bowl clean, leaving nothing on the cutting board except a single brutally crushed egg yolk. A soft chuckle came from the doorway. Holding the bowl, I turned around. Gu Qinghan was wearing a silk bathrobe, leaning sideways against the kitchen doorframe, with faint light reflecting in her eyes as she stared intently at me. Did you wash your hands before cracking the egg? I nodded. Yes, I washed them. Gu Qinghan let out a drawn-out "oh," her eyes filled with a teasing smile. After the tomatoes are stir-fried, remember to let the sauce thicken a bit. I slammed the bowl in my hand down hard, mimicking her annoying tone. It won't make sauce and it won't thicken. Please do it yourself then. The flour on the cutting board was also spilled by me just now. Gu Qinghan shook her head helplessly and turned to walk toward the living room. Fine, just mess around however you like. That slightly upturned trailing tone sounded incredibly arrogant. I originally wanted to crack another egg, but thinking about it, I decided to forget it. I really should have mixed the eggshells in for her to eat. Looking at the lonely egg in the bowl, I completely gave up struggling. Gu Qinghan was sitting on the living room sofa and hearing the sound of my footsteps coming out. She raised her eyes and glanced casually. How is it done so fast? You should just order takeout, I said, a bit discouraged, while wiping my hands with the tissue. Gu Qinghan immediately stood up, staring at the tissue in my hand. Did you burn your hand? I shook my head repeatedly, but she didn't believe me at all, snatching the tissue right out of my hand. What are you doing? I really didn't get hurt. I was indeed perfectly fine, without even a red mark on my hands. Gu Qinghan swept a glance toward the kitchen. The tomato was still lying intact on the cutting board, completely untouched by a knife. She let out a soft snort from her nose, obviously seeing right through my embarrassment just now. Giving up immediately after cracking an egg, security here is very tight, so delivery drivers can't come in. I pursed my lips in slight embarrassment. Waking up from that nap, my stomach was indeed a bit hungry. I raised my eyes to sneak a glance at her. How about we go out to eat? Gu Qinghan raised her eyebrow slightly. She turned her head and sighed softly. Fine then. Go upstairs and change your clothes first. I rarely came to Beijing before, My parents were both very busy with work, so I had only visited a few times occasionally. When we were about to walk out, Gu Qinghan grabbed my arm and led me toward the other side. I remember when we arrived, we walked that way. Gu Qinghan nodded. Do you really plan to walk there? Walking out of this villa area takes at least half an hour. Remembering that the car ride took a full 10 minutes, I sensibly shut my mouth. She brought me to the underground garage, which was packed with all kinds of luxury cars. She picked a black convertible sports car. I sat into the passenger seat. This car is pretty cool. Gu Qinghan glanced at me while reversing. Are you cold? Not cold. After the car drove out of the villa area, the speed visibly picked up. I knew her car had been confiscated by her family before because she caused some trouble, so her hands were probably itching to drive now. The night breeze blowing against my body felt very comfortable. I took out my phone, filmed a short video, and casually sent it into the group chat. Gu Qinghan's corner of the mouth curled up slightly as she caught it out of her peripheral vision. But when she glimpsed Chao Shuyue's avatar on the screen, her face instantly darkened. She had also added Chao Shuyue before. Is your phone really that fun? I thought she was being completely absurd. None of your business. She then kept a cold face and stopped talking. I could tell she was unhappy, but I didn't bother to ask why either. The car stopped in front of a traffic light. She broke the silence first. What do you want to eat? Up to you, since you know this place better. In the group chat, Chao Shuyue sent a photo of a night view filled with stars. Gu Qinghan let out a salty cold laugh. She really is your good confidant. You're just salty about others because you don't have friends yourself. I replied in a passive-aggressive tone. As well, at least she's better than a friend like you. Gu Qinghan turned to stare at me. Why is your tone so aggressive? Your good confidant isn't even here. Her tone was really asking for a beating. I turned my head away and simply ignored her. The car drove into a high-end restaurant, and I followed her out of the car. A manager in a uniform came out to greet us. I gave her a puzzled look. Gu Qinghan walked ahead calmly. Why are you looking at me? This is the old man's property. I rubbed my slightly chilled arms and silently followed behind her to go inside. We sat down at a corner table, and the waiter handed over a tablet for ordering. A country stream, cold steak. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it. This was Gu Qinghan's favorite. I immediately changed my words. Change that to a portion of the secret recipe roasted lamb chops. I turned to ask her, what do you want to eat? The corners of Gu Qinghan's lips tilted up slightly. A portion of the country stream cold steak. The AC in the restaurant was running very high. I'm already pretty sensitive to the cold, and having just braved the night breeze all the way here, my arms were covered in goosebumps. Gu Qinghan suddenly stood up. I'll be right back. Leaving only that sentence behind, she walked out quickly with her long legs. I sat in my seat waiting quietly. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mu Yang. Right after I replied to Mu Yang, Hao Shuyue actually messaged me too. Are you still outside? The wind is strong at night. Keep yourself warm. I quickly typed a reply out getting a late night snack. The restaurant's AC is way too strong. I'm shivering right now. Hao Shuyue replied very quickly. Go ask the waiter for a shawl. Be careful not to catch a cold. Not long after, Gu Qinghan returned to the restaurant at a brisk pace, holding an exquisite paper bag. Seeing me staring at my phone the whole time, her expression grew a few degrees colder. The two of us ate our meal in silence, the atmosphere icy cold. I took a sip of warm water, not bothering to break the ice. Gu Qinghan suddenly spoke up. So, technically speaking, you're the old man's sister's grandson. I suddenly choked on the water, hurriedly grabbing a napkin to wipe my mouth. My grandfather and my grandmother are actually not related by blood, I explained earnestly. Gu Qinghan's deep eyes stared at me. Then what exactly is your purpose for coming to Beijing this time? I hadn't decided where to go for summer vacation, and I didn't feel safe leaving grandma alone. So I just tagged along to see. I tried my best to make my tone sound natural. After finishing the meal, we walked to the entrance. Just as I was about to push the door open to leave, Gu Qinghan suddenly pulled me back, taking out a dark gray men's cashmere shawl from the paper bag. She brooked no argument as she draped the shawl over my shoulders. I froze for a moment. Where did you get this? I just bought it. She adjusted the edges of the shawl with one hand. If you bought it, why didn't you say so earlier? I tilted my head up to look at her in confusion. I just happened to put it on you anyway. She turned her head away, avoiding my eyes, but her earlobes were faintly turning red. That awkward look of hers actually made me want to laugh. On the car ride back, Hao Shuyue sent a voice message, and I accidentally played it on speaker. Mu-chen, are you back yet? Remember to drink some hot water when you get back. Hao Shuyue's voice sounded a bit wet. Yelbow. Gu Qinghan's hand gripping the steering wheel tightened, and the air pressure in the car dropped instantly. Your confidant sure is considerate. I could tell Chao Shuyue's tone wasn't right, as if she had run into some trouble. I quickly typed to ask her what was wrong. Chao Shuyue only replied with, just some annoying family matters. It's fine, go to sleep early. I sighed and didn't pry further, knowing her family situation had always been complicated. The car stopped steadily in front of the villa. We're here, Gu Qinghan's cold voice sounded. I put away my phone and got out of the car. The next morning, after freshening up, I went downstairs for breakfast. Grandma Gu Qingzi and old Mr. Gu were both there. Morning, Grandpa Gu. Morning, Grandma. Special Assistant Liu was just about to go call Gu Qinghan, but Gu Qinghan came down from upstairs on her own. She pulled out the chair next to me and sat right down. Old Mr. Gu looked at her with some surprise. This granddaughter of his had always been wild and unyielding, yet she was surprisingly obedient today. Old Mr. Gu stared at me for a moment and suddenly spoke up to ask, did you and Qinghan know each other before? My hand holding the spoon froze. Before I could explain clearly, Gu Qinghan beat me to the punch and said, we've known each other for 4 years. Old Mr. Gu burst into a hearty laugh. You're a good kid. This girl Qinghan has a stubborn temper. You must have suffered a lot of grievances. I bit my lip, not knowing how to respond. But Gu Qinghan turned her head to look at me, uncharacteristically declaring, I will take good care of Mu Chen.